boys.
It's the BOYSCAST.
The lads.
It's the BOYSCAST.
The dudes.
Prepare yourself for BOYSCAST.
The bros.
It's the BOYSCAST.
The homies.
It's the BOYSCAST.
The dudes.
Experience the BOYSCAST.
The boys.
Okay, ABBA Atlas in the building.
Yes. Glad I can make it.
Long time. So I guess
Canadian excellence, right?
it
here.
is actually Canadian excellence.
I think you're our first Canadian guest.
No way. You guys are both Canadian. How's that possible?
Yeah, I'm kind of having trouble thinking.
Just
of one, too.
JJ Lieberman doesn't count.
We had JJ. I'm
JJ Lieberman. I haven't heard from him in years. That's wild. But all I remember of him is like gambling and degeneracy.
Yes, that's.
Dude, you gotta be like, is there anyone that's bigger than you really in like the comedy sort of space?
Like doing what, like the online videos?
I don't know. Like, did you guys do like a 20,000 seater in Montreal or something?
Yeah,
crazy like that?
yeah.
We
We
did
did
the
a
Bell
20
Center, right?
No. So Preach did the Bell Center
Preach
with
did the
Mike,
Bell Center.
but we did a big outdoor show which was 20,000 in attendance. It was cool. It was really weird. It was like going from like middling at like comedy clubs and doing that to hosting our own show and like running it ourselves. It's our name and everything. And, like 20,000 people is like a wild jump.
Yeah, that's insane.
And quick kind of too.
Yeah, it felt quick. It was cool though because the show itself was outdoors, so there was no, like insulated feeling. So the closest thing I could think of was like a music concert. That's what it kind of felt like.
Festival.
Like everyone's standing and everyone's laughing. You hear like the energy and it's like loud. It's just so different.
Did people come from all over for that?
People came from all over.
Like
yeah.
the States and stuff?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot.
You know
of
what's
fun.
so funny too about just like how Canadian showbiz too is like you could probably call up a club, be like, "Hey, I did this thing," and they're like,
We
"Don't
don't
care."
Don't care.
Dude, I was, yeah.
They don't
They're
care.
like, I don't know. We can pencil you in a guest spot in 6 months from now if you want. You go.
I a little
You
bit.
go, hey, I sold 20,000 seats. I go, yeah, I don't care.
Don't care.
No, 100%. Because I think of that sometimes with like the way with our stuff or whatever. But I was like, you specifically, you're just like, I bet you, yeah, you'd talk to a club and they'd have like no idea probably the extent to which you guys are like, I could sell your club out 20 times. Like,
But
you know
they
what I
would
mean?
ask, "Have you done a late show spot?"
Yeah.
It's like what? What is that? What the fuck is that? Even?
And a certain booker who we all know would be like, hey, you're going to wear that? You're going to wear that tonight?
Oh, you're still worried about pissing
Shout
them
out
off
to
by saying
him.
the
Shout
name?
out to him.
No,
Shout out.
Jason
I love
Lawrence.
Jason.
Jason Lawrence. I like Jason Lawrence, but he's so funny.
Jason's a very peculiar person.
Yeah, he
but I
is,
like
but he's
him.
just like, he'll literally give you such a hard time for like this shirt you wear. You're like, nobody gives a shit.
That
old
is-
school.
That
It's
is
very old school.
crazy old school.
Yeah.
Do you like find, do you still pay attention to Canadian politics or being like, are you still tapped into that at all?
I don't know. Not at all. I don't think I ever was.
Yeah,
I
me
don't think I
neither,
ever
really.
was. I mean, I feel like you just very boring.
It is.
Mad boring.
You know-
Every once in a while, there's like one thing where like the truckers were apparently coming back, and that might put them in the mix.
Yeah, that was definitely a hype one.
You're close to there too. Yeah.
Ottawa. I mean, I used to live in Ottawa for a long time. So when the truckers thing's happening, I got excited. I'm like, finally, my city is like on the map for something like
happening.
interesting, you know. But yeah, I think Ottawa Canadian politics in general is just kind of
Boring.
easy to tune out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Everything's about respectability. There's no edginess to it, even though it is more important to us, and we should pay more attention to it. I think you just get engrossed in American politics because it's so like.
How do you not, dude? You talk to people in like Australia that's like they're still just paying attention to American shit because it actually sets the tone. Like even think about how many of countries, like even like the Bolsonaro or whatever, it's like everyone's just like, yeah, it's like Trump. Like
Yeah.
he's still the standard of
Prototype.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Canada had it, but like when they repealed Roe v. Wade, like Australia, they were marching
Yeah.
for like my body, my choice. And you're like, couldn't be a country further away from you. Like, I don't
But
they just want it.
they export their culture so well. Like you
know.
just can't help but take it.
I know. I feel like one of the things that about you too that I remember that is always like I feel like it always pops up again, but which is such a good story that you early on like paid off your mom's mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like it was an early baller move before that was kind of like normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was a weird one. When that went viral, I was like, "How this?" But that was before I was even doing anything on YouTube. So it was really weird. My first 2 videos went viral, and then I had a huge pause in between because I was like, "This is really weird." And then once
So it
I-
wasn't even from money from the internet stuff.
No, I wasn't like I did that like it's almost a decade now.
Because it really reads like you popped off in comedy.
No,
and
no, I did that, and then 3 years later, I started doing stand up. So there was like literally no overlap whatsoever.
That's so crazy because if like your SEO, it's always attached to like this guy was popping off at 23, bought his mom a crib. Like,
Yeah, no, that's so crazy. I that money is money I made from the military. When I got out, I like saved a bunch of it, and then I used it to pay off like a lot of her mortgage. So
That's
how-
it was just like straight up like normal job. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're like kind of the original Steve Will Do It almost.
Yes,
Kind of,
exactly.
because that's kind of Steve Will Do It's move. Is he'll
Yeah,
not
sure.
with his mom, but with strangers, he'll be like, "Yo, here's your mortgage."
Yeah, with gambling money and
With
crypto. Yo, do you know how much those people get paid to do gambling streams?
Oh, I mean Drake.
You
like,
can't imagine how much they get paid.
I'm. A,
You know, because you've been.
I know
offered.
the back end. It's millions.
Oh, for
They
sure.
get millions per stream.
And
Wow.
Yeah. So one guy, his name is Trainwreck. Shout out to him. He made like I think $250 million
Is he the guy who does
in like
steak?
2-3 years.
steak and like all?
He does a lot of the gambling sites on Twitch and stuff. He was huge, and so
Yeah.
he was doing it for a long time. Even XQC, like they were raking in like tens of millions a month from doing gambling streams.
And then YouTube was like, "This is done."
Well, YouTube never really allowed it, so they didn't do it. They did it on Twitch for a long time.
Okay.
So that's how they were going through with it. And then there's ways you could do the streams on YouTube without showing the links or stuff like that. So Steve Will Do It would get around that way. But they were making like people don't realize how much money there is on the back end depending on
I didn't
who
know
you're
it was
sponsoring.
that kind of cash.
I know, right?
I mean,
a
this-
$250 million. You're talking LeBron James money.
That's insane. Well, the steak stuff, like you see, Drake is always gambling on steak, and he'll be like, "I just made." I watched one of his streams once, and he literally lost $25 million, and then he Drake in a stream, and then he hit one bet where he made like $10 million, and of course that's the only thing you see.
Yeah.
Is you're like Drake won $10 million in a bet. You're like he's still down $15 million.
He's not actually
real.
I
down.
don't think that's real money.
It's
That's
not
me
real.
with
So
stocks.
they give
I
him
don't think so.
tokens
Yeah.
to gamble on stream, so it looks real.
Yeah.
And then when he wins, like he gets a portion of that. But the real thing is they get paid on the back end for the stream to just do it.
Yeah.
But the money that they're gambling at first is not real.
Yeah. That's what I always thought. Same with like all the guys. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
who are
Some of
in
them
stuff.
do gamble their own money, but most of them it's just like they're getting credits.
And then everyone signs up because they're there.
Yeah, and then they're
But like,
showing
do
like, hey,
but do they
I
give you a promo code, or is it essentially?
You get a promo code. So like let's say if you use Drake's promo code, you'll get like $500 off the top to gamble.
And then he's getting probably something per promo code too.
Absolutely.
And those are super unregulated gambling sites too. They're not even like a lot of them are crypto too,
Yeah.
right? They're all like these crypto and stuff. So they probably are like
He makes more money off a stream than he would do like doing a show in the city.
That's
oftentimes.
crazy.
Think about it, and think about the effort that goes into it.
I know that I feel like there's a lot of stuff in being in entertainment now that like there's so many ways that's like, yeah, you'd make way more money if you just did this. And it's like, you're like, yeah, I don't want to. But it's like when the differentials are getting so crazy, it's like you're getting pushed in so many different ways.
It's rarely the main product that makes you the money. It's very rare, like he doesn't make money off the records. He makes money going on tour, obviously, or merchandising if he's really into it. Brand deals, you know what I mean? Like I see a lot of artists now doing like music artists doing brand deals with like Adidas and stuff like that.
I know.
That's a huge check for doing 1 or 2 commercials and having your brand associated. So
Yeah, I heard
that's
like
where the money.
I think little Yachty was talking about that. Yeah, because he had like 20 different ones or something like that.
Yeah. That's where you get the real money. That's why you see NBA athletes like, oh fuck, eat a Subway because I know I do during training. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you're eating Subway for training. bro.
yeah.
It's one of those things that's always like weird and everyone thinks it's corny until one guy does it and you're like, I guess people can do that now.
For sure.
Like
That's-
one huge guy, one comedian has to, be doing his like arena tours with his like, poker shirt on and you're like, oh, we wear shirts on our
yeah,
tours now?
Absolutely.
Well, especially when people start finding out how much money that guy got, and they go, "Oh,
Yeah.
It's more like they just didn't realize. You go, "Oh, yeah, for that kind of money, hell yeah."
Yeah.
The comics you think made the most money are not the ones who made the most money. The ones who made the most money are oftentimes like people selling out arenas to like niche audiences or folks who are doing like privates for like high earning people. Like
Yeah.
when you're going to Dubai and you're doing stuff for the royal family, it's like you're getting paid millions to do one
The Russell
show.
Peters
the
deal.
Russell-
Yeah, like when you, man, you say whatever you want about him as a comedian, whatever. Like,
I like
again,
Russell Peters.
Yeah, some people hate him, some people love him.
Canadian
But
excellence.
at the end of the day, those are the guys making. But you wouldn't think that unless you know like what's going on behind the scenes. So,
Yeah, for sure.
I always said owning a demographic is always the best for anything. Like with comedians, where you go, if you're the Italian guy or the Latino guy, and you go wherever you play, it's like they put like a horn goes out, and every Latino just comes out from
course.
from 300 miles in every direction.
Well, it's like how Gabriel Iglesias, he sold out Dodger Stadium.
it's so nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, on paper, you wouldn't you think he's bigger than name 20 people
For sure. Yeah, but he's big time.
Yeah.
Do you think? So I was just in like Portland, and it was one of those things that kind of reminded me of Canada a little bit because it's almost like Portland has the reputation of you're getting scolded everywhere you look. You know what I mean? And it was kind of really I felt it was more the thing where everyone looks like a hiker.
Yeah.
Everyone in
It's Northwest.
Yeah,
It's the
everyone.
same as Vancouver.
But it was
like-
less. I felt like less like girl with like a short hair that looks like she's gonna yell at you, and more of someone that's want to tell you what good trails are out there.
Yeah.
like they're gonna have the toes in their
Yeah.
shoes. You know what I mean?
I think that might be the same person, just different disguise.
Well, I think so, and it was very nice, and it kind of made me think of Canada because you go. I think what made people the Scoldy thing is the nicest people are the most susceptible to ever becoming part of like a mob.
Right.
You know what I mean? Do you think that?
They're agreeable.
I think when it comes to that kind of mentality, when you go to those cities, not adopting it is just like almost social suicide.
That's true.
Like you can't afford to be like, oh, I support Trump while living in Portland. Like,
Yeah,
a bunch of
sure.
your friends would be like, "Fuck you, cunt! You love a racist." Like, there was even that video of that girl who like pretty much shat on her dead dad because he was like into Trump.
Oh, I saw that.
Is that so
Yeah,
crazy?
her dad, like at his funeral, right?
Yeah, the billionaire dude like was in her life, and
Yeah.
she's like, "You're just like xenophobic, racist, Trump-loving white man, and I don't miss you." I was like, "That's crazy."
To do that as like the eulogy at the funeral, you're like, wow.
Also, she got probably paid out too.
yeah,
Is that
millions.
yeah.
She didn't say no to his money, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That
He's a billionaire. That's money.
That would be one of the like toughest things right now. Is like to be like a white dad with a daughter that was just like constantly hating on you.
Yeah.
I always think of even the idea of it would be like, "Hey, can you make your room?" She's like, "You're not my fucking."
And she was adopted too, right? Like she was. I think she was black.
She's
Well, if it's adopted,
maybe
She was-
maybe adopted or mixed. I think.
Oh, I thought I read
Adopted,
that
I
she
could
was.
see
I thought I
hating
read that she
more.
was adopted, but like nobody said he was like a bad. She just didn't like his politics.
yeah.
Which she wasn't accusing him of being a bad father.
But the funeral at the funeral is
crazy.
that's one of those things where you're like, I'm doing this to go viral to some degree, though, right?
I don't think so. I think some people really feel like that kind of righteous indignation. They feel like
Yeah.
they're doing the right thing. So
Exactly.
like the person who recorded it was like some random person on a cell phone.
Oh, it wasn't even her.
No,
putting
it wasn't
up.
even her.
It didn't look a little too polished.
No, it wasn't. Like you could see she's kind of blurry in the shit too. It's like, okay, that's wild.
That is, yeah, you're right though. That is like,
pick your spots. God damn.
yeah, the mom would be one of those things too. You're there being like, can you just can we make it through one?
Or it's like one of those families, like the no boundary families, where she's like, everybody just deals with their grief the same way. Just let her just do it. It's okay. It's fine. Don't want to put too many restrictions on her. She's a free spirit.
Yeah, that's a tough buzz. But no, I thought that when I was there, the one interesting thing is every person has a Tesla. I think I took like 20 Ubers or whatever it was
Yeah,
over
they
the
were
course of the
just
weekend.
Teslas.
I think I took 2 that weren't Teslas.
Yeah.
And so Elon Musk was, obviously you know all this stuff, but he was like, because recently getting in a fight with Apple, and he was like, maybe I'll make an iPhone. And it's like, you said that Tesla was like the iPhone of cars. And people
Kind
kind
of.
of
Well,
say
I mean,
that.
they have. They're the only one that has like software like that updates regularly and shit. I don't
They're
know
very
about
nice.
I don't know about the Twitter phone though.
So do you think he's crushing
Tesla
it?
phone.
I think socially he is. And I think like people are looking at the business model and they're like, oh, he's just going to lose money on this. But I think he sees it as an interesting investment in terms of like social fabric. Like he has so much control. And it seems like viewership or like people are flocking to Twitter to like pay attention to what's going on.
I know.
So it's
I
gonna be
mean,
interesting.
I am on Twitter now. I prefer it a lot of times to just like stuff on TV.
Yeah.
Like it's so entertaining.
Dude, I was kind of thinking because, he's like tweeting nonstop.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, obviously, the reason he's tweeting nonstop is because every tweet probably brings more people in because there's a news story. And it was like, it would be interesting to be like, hey, how much money did each Elon Musk tweet make that company? You go every time, if you literally come up, you go every time I tweet, Twitter is kind of worth another like $100,000 in terms of,
Sure.
if you go every magazine just wrote, this is how much new users you get, and you actually correlate it.
I think he's
You're just
more-
like, how does his whole business model? Yeah, obviously there's like a decreasing ROI on it.
I think every tweet's more plugging like a hole versus like adding money.
You don't think so?
Well, they're losing tons of money, I'm sure. All the advertisers are like legitimately leaving. There is like a thing where you watch it, like Apple's like, we're not advertising or we're pausing, and all these huge companies, like half of the major companies that were advertising on Twitter are like have taken a break. And like his Twitter Blue thing brings in $1 million a month or something. I don't know. Like nothing.
Are you positive on Twitter's better? You don't really tweet like crazy anyway.
I don't touch Twitter.
So that's why, you don't really.
For me, like it makes no difference, but I'm curious to see what it's going to look like a few months from now. I feel like Right now, it's in this weird nebulous area, and that's going to be confusing. But, I think if there's enough viewership and there's enough traction, companies just want to make money.
Yeah.
Once this shit blows over, they'll be like, oh, I can advertise all this. It's not an issue, and they'll come
Of
back.
course.
And I mean, they want to make money. They don't care.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you? What do you think happened with the Balenciaga thing? Because
I actually don't know that story. I've heard about the people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what happened? Something about Kim K is mad.
yeah, they had an ad campaign that it's like essentially like kids in bondage gear. and
No,
all
it
that
wasn't
stuff.
kids in bondage gear. No,
Kids
it was-
with
it was-
ball gags in their mouth, naked. No, it was kind of wild.
It
right?
was, they were selling these stuffed plush bears that the stuffed plush bears were in bondage gear. And then, but they're like these little bears, but they're for, I guess you wouldn't say they're for kids because they're probably $5,000 or something a piece, knowing Balenciaga. And then there was like a kid holding them, like a little kid. And then the set decoration was this, it was this court case or whatever. It was called like United States versus Williams, I think. And it was upholding the child pornography laws, this thing. And it was like obviously placed there on purpose. Like this was not an accident. Like
Well, those are kids holding these, right?
yeah, so
Am
kids,
I crazy?
Yeah, that's kids holding these plush bears. But so there's a document. If you see there's like a manila or like a file folder thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a document peeking out of it. And that document is like the Supreme Court upholding child pornography laws. That they just like a little Easter egg that they put in there.
And then Balenciaga's suing the photographer.
Yeah, they're saying like
They're passing the buck on this
everybody's
guy.
passing the buck right now. And Balenciaga they privated all their social media.
But it's like hard to believe that it's a conspiracy. So that's why it seems like it's one. I was like in the idea that at the Balenciaga headquarters, it's kind of like everyone's in the meeting and it's like everyone, okay, I was thinking, maybe we do a shoot with like older people. And there's like maybe like an athletic thing. And the one guy with like the mustache being like kids. There's just like, there's just one creep in the Balenciaga. But he, his dad kind of works there. So they can't fire him.
Can't fire
He's
him.
like, can we do kids this time?
Can we do kids? I mean, yeah, I don't know. They're risque. I'm sure that's how they brand themselves. But you're like,
You see it as like it was an edgelord thing.
no. I see it as there's just some people are so detached. Like if you're someone who I think is like a designer for Balenciaga, like you're probably pretty detached from the regular world. Like you're dressing in latex as like a normal thing.
I will say
And,
I dated a girl who was, like a fashion designer, and that was her whole world. And that was correct. She didn't know, like I bet you she would know who the prime minister was, but she wouldn't know who the person who ran against them, for example.
Okay.
I don't know if you,
yeah.
but like, so they are detached from that extent.
And
yeah.
they probably are like, yeah, it's like a edgy thing, but they're probably like, what's the problem? Like, no children were getting harmed, and they probably
That's
don't
what you
know-
think it is.
They're like, nobody's actually getting harmed, and they probably don't know this whole like underlying debate about all of like the grooming stuff because they're probably like not on Twitter and they just like don't know.
It's just weird seeing, like, I don't even know about the rest of the stuff, but just seeing a kid with like a bear in fishnets and
Yeah.
like weird makeup, like that's already like too far from me.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, I'm like, what? Like,
but the thing
I
that-
would have a bear for my kid with a thong on. You know what I mean? Like that's just weird. Like,
well, and that's the thing. I don't even get who that's like. I don't even know if those are for kids. Like those might be like teddy bears for adults.
Sure. There's also, it's like kind of like the Ali G, where the funnier part is the parents that, bring their kids for that acting job. You know what I mean?
right.
Did you remember I think it was Bruno,
Oh, Bruno, yeah.
where they have the kid and they're like, your baby's going to have to lose 10 pounds and all this stuff.
And they're like, yeah, we could do that.
I think in these worlds, like things that are for kids, like things that are for adults are not now for, like they got makeup for kids. They're like
Really?
slowly, but yeah. And so the stuff that are normally for, it's like you're seeing these pageant shows and what these girls are wearing. Like when they're wearing those stuff, they're wearing what adults wear.
Yeah.
That's why it's disgusting to
Child
like, look
pageant
at.
stuff's nuts.
Yeah. So that's that kind of world that you're looking at. So for them, they probably looked at that stuff. And, with big companies like that, they don't go through not everyone sees everything. They got one department that does this. You do this shoot, whatever. It passes through one checks and balance, and then
Yeah.
it goes out to the
Oh, for
public.
sure.
And so somebody fucked up royally there, but it's not surprising.
That's what they're.
And that was the
Balenciaga
right
said-
person that no one could question. So
Yeah.
they
Well, Balenciaga saying they hired this firm or whatever, like this company, to do this shoot, and so they're suing them for $25 million because they're like, we just hired them to do this campaign, which is probably pretty normal. They probably outsource all these campaigns to all these different companies,
That was
and then
weird.
they just were like, here's the weird sex trafficking one we made. Sorry, thought this would hit.
child porn. That's weird.
Yeah, but the guy who's like or girl who's printing out, they're like looking up this case, like the United States versus about child pornography laws, and they're like, they printed multiple copies of this, you know, to like set design and like.
No, that shit's wild.
I couldn't even look at it. I pulled up the picture and like, you know, when you look at a picture and it's so like you have to like lean back just to make sure you're not too close.
Yeah.
Like that's how weird it was. like that's like, let me get that off my phone. That was weird.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, the fashion world's always been full of freaky ass shit, though.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They're trying to freak. They're probably like, yeah, we're trying to freak everybody out, you know.
yeah, it's got to be daring.
It has to be.
I mean, on adults, it's one thing. Like when you see somebody on a fashion shoot and like they're wearing a trash bag, you're like, okay, whatever. They're being artsy fartsy.
Yeah.
But when you see kids doing it, that's when it gets weird.
I always say, like, art
And the
and
parents are
fashion-
there. Like the parents
Yeah.
are behind that camera.
Yeah.
Like 10 feet away watching them.
That's what's weird. Because like, how much can the kid really consent to this kind
They
of stuff?
can't. They cannot at all legally.
No, the kid didn't say to the mom, like, hey, there's this audition I'd really like to go out for.
Or like the kid was like, hey, I have an idea for the set. And they have like, I brought some child pornography documents.
That's crazy. Do you think because I don't know if I'm sure you did, but like you've seen Kanye West doing a bit of a press tour recently.
Yeah. It's wild, right?
Yeah. And last night he was like, I went on Tim Pool's show and then he walked
He was
off.
on Tim Pool's show.
You didn't
Dude.
see that with Nick Fuentes and Milo.
So he went on the show and then like he was started talking about the Jewish stuff and then he like walked off and then kind of stormed out or whatever.
he stormed
right?
out 20
Why?
minutes
Because Tim
into it.
pushed back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Because the whole thing was Kanye's like saying, you know, they, and then he's like, I don't want to say who they is, and then Tim Pool was like, what, the corporate media? He goes, what, the corporate media? And then he goes, no, and he goes, who? And then Kanye was like, I'm not talking, like basically like I don't want to talk about this again. And then
Unless you'll admit like who they is.
yeah, like say who they is, and Tim's like, well, and then they just stormed off, and then they all just left.
It's corny.
20
Yo, do you
minutes.
feel like it's one of the craziest things in the world that you kind of, you know, you're in this like kind of streamer world, like, you know, there's, you know, you've been on streams with some of these people and it's
Yeah.
like just the amount of like weird worlds that are colliding feels like more than I've ever seen.
Well, you guys know in entertainment, like there's 1 degree of separation between you and most people.
Yeah.
Like one person you know knows the person that you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
in
not-
Toronto, there's a 1 degree of separation from everyone and Drake allegedly.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way.
I mean, it's true. I know multiple people who know him.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I feel that way about most celebrities in life. So it's not totally surprising because the politics do align. It's weird to like watch it happen on like CNN or something like that. But
Yeah.
it's cringe because Kanye's like political opinions are generally pretty nonsensical. And so these people who like claim they want to be serious politically are just attaching to him for clout. That's great for them. Like who's talking about Milo until like,
Of course.
Yo, if you're him, you're like, this is the sickest thing ever, probably.
yeah.
And Nick
for-
Fuentes. Nick Fuentes was like not allowed on anything basically, and then now he's on a private jet with Kanye West,
It's crazy, right?
like going and doing all these like press.
Well,
things.
so listen, when someone backs up all the crazy shit that you say, like, yeah, you gonna bring them everywhere. So I can see that. Like,
Yeah, they're just his yes men right now.
Sure. Well, do you think that, like, you know, things kind of, you know, move fast and then something changes? And I think that, like, with Elon Musk buying Twitter, it felt like something changed a little bit.
really, like socially, and then everything kind of spiked from there.
Well, I don't think that's the catalyst, but
Okay.
to me, I was thinking it with Andrew Tate, like, let's say him getting taken off and then, you know, Kanye kind of being, you know, taken out of public discourse and then, you know, Elon Musk kind of becoming somewhat a persona non grata. And it was almost, you know, Steve will do it. It's almost, I think of it like with a girl. If imagine, let's say Call Her Daddy got kicked off. It's like, okay, maybe they just stopped listening to Call Her Daddy. Then Oprah's gone. Then Beyonce's gone. Like,
Yeah.
imagine there is an amount where people are like, okay, the whole game just changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it felt like maybe the last like month feels like the crack that it actually, you know, it's people actually do go to Rumble. And it's not just the platforms like that. It just feels like there's been like a crack in the amount that there is just one thing that people are supposed to think or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to drive that many people to Rumble. I don't.
Maybe
think
that's
so.
the wrong example. That who knows what the platform is, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be. I think even Kanye in his recent moves, I don't feel like he's garnered that much more news support. If anything, I think he's just lost a bunch.
No, he's losing it.
Well,
Yeah.
you always do.
I mean, he's hanging out like, you know, he's this one of the biggest hip hop stars in the world, and he's like hanging out with a guy who thinks races shouldn't mix.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah, how's that going to go over for the
for you and your kids.
for you and your kids and you're like your general fan base who doesn't know any of this like fringe politics stuff.
I guarantee you, if he runs live shows now, it's going to be way less people attending. And so it's like,
Well, that's for sure.
it's different though, because like if I think Elon, I feel like Elon's support has been bolstered. If I look at someone like Dave, and
You
like,
think he's more popular now?
absolutely. If I look at someone like Dave, and like when he was going through his stuff with Netflix, I feel like his support went through the roof.
It did.
You know, whereas I think with this situation in particular, I don't feel like people are like crazy behind him. I think he's just attracted a different crowd, but I don't think it's grown. And so that's an interesting thing that's a bit
But
different about
also
this.
one, I think probably interesting part to add to it is like the difference is that those guys didn't get kicked off of anything.
True.
So it's like, obviously, if you're going to get kicked off of platforms, you're going to lose something. It's just a matter of how much.
I wonder though, because I think if you would have kicked Dave off of Netflix and he ran his own special, I think it would have sold like crazy.
Oh yeah, he would have been like.
I think it would have
Louis
sold like
CK
crazy.
10
I
years
think
ago,
the public can feel the difference between like different forms of cancellation or like different stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like Tate, I feel like his support went down substantially, even though he's like popular.
Yeah, it's also hard to say because I'm sure I know he says stuff like that, but there's also a part where you're just like, well, it was no matter what, it was going to go down a little from there.
True.
Yeah.
True. That's true.
Yeah, because
That
you're
was
just
not-
He was like he
Not
was
sustainable.
everywhere before. Now he's just like
and
less.
that can't go on forever. Period.
He's done a great pivot though. He's done a great job pivoting with the like the whole Muslim stuff. And I'm like, well, that's
doing a master
crazy.
class.
Muslim stuff. I didn't.
He became Muslim.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's I actually said that in this. I did a sketch about him last week, and about Jordan Peterson. I was saying if Jordan Peterson was listening to him, but one of the things was Jordan Peterson being like, maybe I should just go Muslim. They can't attack that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a crazy pivot. Like, it's been interesting to see how he was like rehabilitate himself and like garner a lot of the support that he kind of lost. So that was interesting. But I think with Kanye, I feel like his situation is like very peculiar. I don't feel like black people are with him. I don't feel like most other folks are with him. I think it's just like really anti-establishment people who
Yeah.
are with him. Like very extreme.
You don't think that I think there's a certain type of black guy that's, pretty down with that message, but like I used to always say that the super black power stuff and certain white power stuff, it always just ends up with Jews.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think they don't care about the Jewish stuff, but when he was like saying like George Floyd,
No, they didn't like that
They
stuff.
didn't.
No, they didn't like that.
And I think Kanye's already been on the bend on the outward, being ushered out the door. So like once he said that stuff, it kind of wrapped it up for him. I think if you hadn't said that and just said the Jewish stuff, I don't think most people would have cared.
No.
And the black community, yeah. It's interesting watching Kanye's progress. I feel like it's just going to go downhill from here.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I feel.
I honestly think too, watching him last night too, I was just like, part of me just feels like the guy just really wants his old life back. Like he just wants his family and shit. And this is like, he's just trying to figure, like, I don't know. He's on this like self-destructive
Yeah.
spiral where he just probably just like wants his life back from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, for sure he's never getting it back, and he's just, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen a million people in my life do the exact same thing, but yeah, like comedian, like that's just even on like a tiny scale in like a open mic scene. You could even, I mean, I can there's probably public people that I know too, but just someone that, one thing happens, then they get kicked out of here, then they get in a fight here, then they get kicked out of the bar, then you get fucking fight with your parents. Like it's just, and then within 6 months, then you fucking go break up with your girlfriend. Then, within 6 months, like everything was,
Yeah.
But that's not on a personal level. It's not irredeemable. On like a public level, it's like haunts you forever.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to come back from. I wonder when I see guys like Milo and stuff who like support Trump, but then they're rolling with Kanye. Like that dinner fucked up Trump big time.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, that dinner that he did with Nick, like all the news people
know.
are hammering him about the Jews and stuff like that, and he has apologized
Immediately.
for it. Yeah, it's interesting.
And
like,
he was on bad footing even before that
Yes.
in terms of getting reelected. Like it wasn't like, oh, he's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Like everybody was like, yeah, doesn't have the sauce, not looking the same. And then just add this to that mix. You're like,
yeah, he had no idea that dinner was gonna fuck him up like that. That was wild. Niggas,
Yeah,
niggas radioactive. Bro.
Yo,
he apologized.
That is-
He apologized. Trump probably walked that dinner on True Social like 5 different
there are
posts.
different apologies.
Different
He
posts.
didn't
all
even
different-
apologize though. He was just being like, I didn't know who these guys were. I was trying to help a black man who was going through mental problems. And then a different one, I was like, I don't know who these other guys. He just showed up with 2 other people, and I told him like you should run. And it was interesting. He never apologized for it though. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to.
Yeah. And then I guess he talked shit about Kim Kardashian.
There is
Yeah,
something
yeah,
to be
yeah,
said about like apology is not going to be his brand, obviously, but like. If I was meeting with Kanye West and you weren't like crazy tapped into like the last week and he was like Kanye West boys coming through too, it's probably not who you'd expect.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what are the conversations that Kanye's having with Nick? Be like, so the Jews, like how
right. No, you're right.
How crazy in private are like
Oh, mental.
the Jews comments?
Oh,
they got to
man.
be insane.
They must be. I mean, Nick, I can only imagine is probably for him. This is like
So
he
sick.
Yeah, he's probably like, I can't believe what's
Oh
going on.
yeah, for him,
right
it's like
now.
went from irrelevancy and being deplatformed everywhere
Yeah.
to being with one of the great, like biggest hip hop artists of all time, and still arguably is one of the most influential. Right? So
Yeah, for sure.
that's wild.
I mean, Kanye's working on that, but
Dude, I honestly
It's a big
kind
W
of-
for them. Yeah.
yeah, like watch this stuff. And it's like one of the first times that I'll see things, and I'm like, I don't even necessarily like have like a take on this other than like, what the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yo, that's why I mean where I was like, it feels like there's something that's changed where it's like most things like could have been predicted where it's like this one, no, like if you asked me 3 years ago of the things, like this is the most where you just like, yo, this feels like someone's like fucking around with the world and just like weird shit's happening or something. I would never have predicted
I think
it.
Kanye probably would think the same.
Yeah, sure.
He'd be like,
I don't know, like,
I mean,
well-
the fact he's trying to run for president, you're like, dude.
He did it last time. It was nonsense.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
Still
and then,
nonsense
And
this
they were
time
even
around.
saying on Tim Pool last night, they were like, yeah, they were the way they were talking about it in the kitchen before the show. They're like, sounds like he's really going to do it. And you're like, well, I mean, if he's trying to waste the rest of all of his money, go for it. Like you're not going to get elected.
oh, because it's just expensive to
Dude,
run.
it costs $500 million to run for president or something. Like he's not a party, so he doesn't get the party money that the party provides you. It's just his personal money, like Ross Perot or something.
There's no way they're going to fundraise. So these two are just like running it. They're trying to milk it as much as possible,
Yeah.
and then they'll probably move on. Like, there's no way they're going to stick by him beyond that.
Well, once
Like,
the money
they'll
runs
be
out.
loosely associated, but
Yeah,
they're just
yeah,
trying to come
yeah.
back to it. I don't think it's going to do much for Milo, to be honest with you, but I think for Nick, it's going to do a lot of good for him.
Yeah, totally. If it and like this platform, whatever, probably if it hasn't already.
Cozy TV.
Cozy.
Cozy
Kanye,
TV.
Yeah.
Kanye might be doing some streams.
Didn't he show up on one of his streams? That shit was funny.
Who
I
did?
think he showed up on one of his streams. On one
Kanye did?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really? I did not see that.
Yo,
Yo,
crazy.
Kanye's on. Dude, that's rock bottom for
Yeah,
Kanye West.
that's
You were
funny.
like, you
I
just had
guess.
4 shows at SoFi Stadium canceled, and now you're showing up on Cozy TV streams.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird
Dude,
thing.
I mean, I'll tell you what. Like, we might be able to get him on the boys cast.
Honestly, I mean, again, we are one degree of separation away from him now because he's
maybe
hanging out with
it's
Sneeko.
one level smaller. Yeah. All right, gonna take a quick second here to tell you about the box of awesome. Awesome's the feeling that's sparked from the unexpected, and that's exactly what the curators of Bespoke Post have delivered in the new winter lineup of must-have Box of Awesome collections. Bespoke Post partners with small businesses and emerging brands to bring you the most unique goods every month. Every box comes with a bunch of cool stuff. Now, I'll tell you about some of my favorites here. For example, the Carnivore Box. The American barbecue rub in the Carnivore Box is made by the Great American Spice Co. in Rockford, Michigan. If you go check out the website, you can see all of these and how it works. The Trail Box and the Gut Hook knife in the Trail Box is made by Titan International, located in Illinois. And it's pretty simple stuff. No matter what you're going to have on this winter, Box of Awesome has you covered. From cozy essentials to travel, must-haves, and cocktail kits, Box of Awesome has everything you need for the winter. You know, if you get the aged box, the aging kit from Black Swan Cooperage, a father-daughter duo located in the heart of the Minnesota Northwoods. The glasses are hand-blown from Italian crystal glass. To get you started, what happens is you take the quiz at boxofawesome.com, and your answers will help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of categories. Each box is valued around $70, but you only pay a fraction of that price. Plus, with each Box of Awesome, you're supporting small business because 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small up-and-coming brand. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel every time. So it's a monthly box, and you can get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com. To enter the code BOYSCAST at checkout, that's boxofawesome.com with the code BOYSCAST for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code BOYSCAST. I don't know, you talk a lot about those, like the self-improvement guys or whatever, and I feel like...
Self-improved, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to gloss over. The Red Pill folks?
The Red Pill folks.
Well, I was going to say... I was going to put all of them into a category,
Yeah.
and I was also going to maybe put you to some degree in that
Okay,
too.
fair.
Because I'm like, I would say even like Jordan Peterson or whatever, right? Like the Red Pill thing's one thing, but just there are guys that like I follow that just give you like stoic advice every day and like
Sure.
workout tips. Like I don't think they're talking
Yeah,
about
I don't
any
think
of
there's a
that
Red
stuff.
Pill, those dudes. But yeah, I get what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
but it's like my point was, which ones do you think are good? Because I think a lot of them. I mean, maybe I'll phrase this better. When I watched the conversation with like you and Gideon and Gideon and Sneeko and Destiny, right?
Right.
And there was like you guys were all arguing, and to some degree, it felt to me where it was like some of the things that I feel like they're wrong about. It was just like young people.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the stuff that I thought, it felt like young people. And you, I was more like, yeah, we're probably the same age or whatever.
Yeah.
But I probably thought a lot of the things they're saying when I was, like that age or whatever.
Probably, yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because one of the things that I feel like I screw up with when I'm talking to people like that, because I don't know if you were this type of guy, there's certain things where people can tell you, but you have to actually
Go through it.
You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So it's kind of like a tough one. Like, who do you think is a good, even like I always say, like Andrew Tate, like even if you don't like him, like some 20-year-olds need like a guy like that to shock them a bit. Probably like, I don't know, you were in like the army, like there's probably like some degree of that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think?
I think when it comes to that world, I just think men lack guidance, and so anybody that tells them to take accountability for their life or to take responsibility to make the change that they have the powers, like it's a very appealing message. At the end of the day, like most of us want to hear that.
Yeah, of course.
You're a powerless young man. You don't make money. Like you want to hear like I can fucking do this, and I'm the boss if I do, right? So it's completely understandable. I don't have a problem with that message per se. I think it becomes in the finer details that it comes a little bit goofy to me.
Well, they start packaging it, right?
Yeah,
they start
package other
adding. They
stuff.
go like, "Well, this can't be my main message.
Yeah.
It's too bare bones." And they start adding on all this other stuff, right?
Or it's
They're
like, yeah, man, just keep going. You're gonna have multiple wives one day. It's like, no, you're not. You're not gonna have multiple wives.
To me, that's a perfect example of like young person advice. Cause
they're gonna have multiple ex-wives.
Yeah. You're gonna have multiple women just sitting around like a harem. I'm like, bro, this is a pipe dream. That's not happening.
That's a nightmare. I would not even want that.
Yeah, but when I was like 25, you think you would do, and then, because you're like, I don't want to do it like that, and then finally you realize probably that like most people just kind of have a wife.
Yeah.
And I guess their idea is like, well, that was wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's why they're Muslim now, because they heard that like that comes with the starter pack.
Right.
Yeah, 3 wives, and they're traditional, and they're all down with like orgies and stuff.
Yeah, that's
very traditional.
So this is some of the stuff I don't mind the self-improvement stuff, because I don't even think we even talk about that. It's more so the finer details where they start talking about other stuff. And you're like that sounds goofy.
Yeah. It also
like it's why we don't cover Jordan Peterson. Like if Jordan Peterson saying stuff like clean your room, like no one's gonna be like, what a fucking loser. Like no, we don't care. It makes sense, right?
I mean, it is funny though that there is a corner of like Twitter and they go like, look at this idiot telling people to clean their rooms, and then
it was like spicy, just to tell you to get your life together a little bit.
Yeah, I think people just didn't understand why that advice was so popular, but I think people don't understand that like a lot of young dudes don't know what to do with their lives. So there's a place for it, and I don't think that we have an issue with that. So no, I'm cool with that.
What do you think is the biggest thing that they, the young guys would have to do better? Like together, life together. Like what is the best
I think you guys could speak to this, but I think just taking responsibility for stuff, and then like, I think taking on responsibilities is a big one. Like when you start paying rent, when you start working a job, when you start taking care of stuff, when you start up your own stand-up, or you're writing weekly for stand-up comedy and you're going to shows, like once you start assuming those responsibilities, you come a little bit more comfortable with yourself over time.
Yeah.
And so this is what it comes down to. I think they got to understand they have to go through that struggle of like taking on responsibilities, not just fun. It's not about going to Cabo because you made a bunch of crypto money and fucking a bunch of whores. Like that's the fun for a weekend, but that's not the stuff that makes you feel comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's probably one of the things that even like in every job where it's like it's like taking the one thing and making it way bigger. Like every dude to some degree, or at least most, probably does need to some degree figure out how to get chicks.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And to deal with women and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Have like a confidence and a version of yourself that knows how to, all that sort of stuff, talk to a woman. But then it's like once you've kind of figured that out, it's like, it's like you're not going to just think about that forever. You're kind of like, hey, now improve the next part. You know what I mean?
I wonder though, because I know so many dudes now who like their first girl is their last girl. Like this, it seems like it's so much more common than I remember it being.
And
like,
I bet
a lot of the people I know,
a lot of my friends from back home, like I have many friends like that who are.
But don't you think some of those guys probably have like more problems? They might have been better if they actually kind of.
I wonder because the guys who are like out there, I feel like they're the ones who look like the most dysfunctional to me.
Yeah,
I think my life was very dysfunctional with women. Like, was I good at talking to chicks again? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean I had the best relationships all the time. And I'm pretty sure you can speak to that too. Like, you probably had some fucked up relationships too.
Yeah. You know what? But I would say that probably a good way to describe the difference is you just say like, what are you optimizing for? And at that
Sure.
time I wasn't like I was always doing good at something.
Yeah.
It's just, that was a mess, but that was so like, I didn't care about winning at that game at that time.
Think about the dudes who are like the best with women. Like most of them have like dysfunctional family lives, dysfunctional relationships or marriages.
It's the worst game to play because the prize is you just keep playing.
Yeah,
It's
never
a
ending.
It's a pinball machine that like you never run out of
I
cards.
don't think that translates to like relationship skills. Like I really don't think it does that well. And so the things that make you good at like getting girls, it's not the things that make you good at like having a functional. You can keep the girl if you know how to do it, but doesn't mean it makes it a good relationship.
But it also doesn't benefit you in another way because when if you're in college and you're the guy that gets girls, that benefits everything. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Your social
socially it
standing,
benefits
yeah.
you. You know, maybe if you can bring hot chicks, you can probably get into every place you like, whatever it is. But if you take away I think as you get older, the other benefits, now you're just a guy meeting up with a different chick every night. Like, there's no benefit to being like 40 years old and just having a different chick every night, other than you just have to actually like the act of the kill.
Yeah.
And
That's
there's
the
no
thing.
other part attached to it.
and then you just get caught up in that whole thing.
Yeah.
Thinking you're gonna be like Dan Bilzerian one day, but
He's getting married too.
is he?
Yeah, he got married.
yeah.
He got married like a couple weeks back. He's done with it. Like you can't
clocked
maintain
out.
it.
He's clocked out. That
Like-
must have been a sad day for a lot of dudes
Hey,
who were
man.
just watching it.
He got a hot wife. He good. He's like, I'm done with this shit. It's like it makes sense because like you can only do it for so long before like the high is just dead.
Yeah.
And then the energy, the time you put in, you just want to be alone after you're busted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want to see this girl again. And he's like, ugh.
You
And
go
all the
through-
time you spent wasting. Like, I remember one time I had this whole week, I just spent like time talking to so many girls. I'm like, bro, this was the most unproductive week of my fucking
for
life.
sure.
There's never been a time where I've like slept with a lot of women and thought like, wow. This was time well spent. I've never thought that was time like well spent. Ever. And if maybe you guys different, never for me. Doesn't matter how the girl was. It didn't
I would
matter.
say it's time well spent if like I was there with my buddy and there was two girls. Do you know what I mean? I don't
What
even
you
mean
mean? Like,
the sex
is that
thing.
the memory of having your friend there?
Yeah, I was hanging out with my buddy.
Okay.
Just
So
have fun
but like,
social time.
well, because if you're creating like hanging
memory.
out with one girl,
Yeah.
that's only you. That's only your memory.
Okay, I can see that.
So it's like at that point, if it's like you and your buddies are hanging out with some chicks,
Sure.
that's like a bonding thing with your boys.
Sure, I could see that.
To me, a lot.
yeah,
of
I know
things
you
is
mean that with the just crazy on chicks for you don't feel like you accomplish it.
No,
Dude, I remember having periods where like you're just like, all right, this has to stop.
It was like a job. I was like, I have this.
You're your own
part-time-
secretary.
Yeah, I'm like, I have this part-time job where I'm just dealing with getting chicks, and you're talking, and it's just like, yeah, it stinks.
yeah, it's a headache to think about. And like, I don't know, you do this podcast, or you do this work stuff, you go on tour, you do this, you feel like much more rewarded by doing that stuff than you do with this stuff. Like, I'm just wasting a lot of my time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard because it's addictive. So that's why I was saying, when I look at those dudes who got in those relationships early, like part of me is thinking, like, seems more stable, seems more functional towards having a long-term career. You know what I mean? And as you get older in life, like having that support system behind you, it seems a lot better than whatever I got, which is just like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm lucky, like no STDs, no fucking kids, no nothing. So like I'm fortunate. A lot of dudes didn't get that luck.
That wasn't free, that life stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they had to pay a price to do all that. So like, not only does it not benefit you long term, but it's like the risks are pretty high. Because I know some dudes who have kids with people they wish they didn't have kids with.
Some
Man,
girls
Oh,
on
yeah.
tour.
woo,
Dude,
that's a doozy.
I have a friend like that he had a kid with this chick, and he's like ruined my life.
Yeah.
Basically. Like he's
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, straight up. He's just like, I knocked up this girl, and he's in his 30s, so you get like to that whole thing where you're like, well, women in 30s don't really have abortions, like they have kids, like
Yeah.
it's just like what you do. And he's like, oh, I don't really like her that much, but she's like, oh, I'm having the kid, so he's like, I guess I'll go along with this. And then 2 years later, they're like estranged, and fucking he's like hates her guts, and
Yeah.
they hate each other, and lives 4 hours away, and like just
Yeah.
nightmare.
Brutal.
Nightmare.
That's fucking brutal. So yeah, I mean, which life path would you choose? I don't know, part of me probably was like, I probably choose the other one.
There is because
I guess there is some degree, sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah, yeah.
of doing both though. Like I guess if you get to the end and you'd be like, I was able to
and that's
do
where
both.
it's so easy
Sure.
to say, yeah, because
Maybe
that's
you
the
could
thing.
look
It's very
back and
easy to
say-
say that. It's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of
Grass is greener.
Yeah, grass is always greener.
grass is always greener, but it's easier to not worry about your neighbor's lawn if you've spent a lot of time there and you're actually kind of over going there.
True. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Because you know what, the grass is greener, but if you've actually spent enough time in the other place, you understand all the bad parts too. So that's why you kind of figured out for yourself. Like, it only seems good, but you're right. They both have negative things. That's why when you're just doing that, probably a relationship looks better. And then you're like, well, there's hard parts of all of it.
Yeah.
When you're just in a relationship and you've never been that guy, I think that it's a lot greener. Yeah. Whereas you're like, yeah, that gets a lot as well.
Yeah. I think it's harder for dudes once they go through this lifestyle to do the other one, though. That's the main thing.
That is the other cost.
Yeah, because I think once you're talking to girls, a girl comes talk to you, like, you know what I mean? It's automatic. You just fucking send a couple messages and then you just go on from there. It's like, damn, this is like, you're moving so quickly, and so it's hard to turn that off. And even when you get in a relationship, there's still people in your peripherals. You're like, I could definitely talk to her. I could do this. You know what I mean? Like, it never turns off, like that automatic feel to it, and so
I know
it becomes harder to walk away from that life.
Yeah, I know all guys that are like 55 that they're just like still the exact same as at 30. Never even like made a dent.
That's slightly pathetic. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
that's like I don't want to be that dude.
No. They're like married guys that are just like still like would want, like, you know what I mean? It's not
a lot of them do. They go to fucking Panama. They got their little girlfriend there. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's the system?
Yeah.
You know guys that have that?
Yeah, they go to these like work trip, and then they have their second girls or whatever the fuck it is. Or they have like different hookers that they get with. That's super, super normal.
Yeah.
If you go to Panama, you'll actually see like a lot of these women are girlfriends. But it's just like the guys come in for the weekend.
I've heard people actually talk about that one. Yeah. So they basically, you you essentially pay them to be your girlfriend for a week.
Yeah. Oh, how do you think escorts make money? It's not from single guys.
Right. They make, but they make one pop. So I don't know if all escorts are in that, like the week-long girlfriend game, probably.
Some of them, but
that's
a lot of
the dream for them, probably.
They don't have like, they won't do like exclusive thing, but they'll do like, oh, this is the guy I'm with for 1 week. I'm his girlfriend for this week. And they'll have like a few clients.
Yeah.
They prefer that life because it's stable. They know how generous he is. They don't want to cycle through a bunch of people. So if you're doing like high-end escorting or sugar baby stuff, you're trying to have consistency. You're not trying to have a new dude. Who are these guys? They're not single generally. They're married. They have understanding. So it's like it's hard to walk away from that kind of lifestyle.
That it's probably like increasingly harder sell that all your trips to Panama, though. Yeah. You have to legitimately have like a shell corporation that you're operating there.
It's like, remember that boat that got stuck in the canal? I've been working on.
Oh yeah,
it's still stuck.
Oh yeah, just the Amazon package came in Panama. I gotta let the guy in. I'm gonna be gone this weekend.
I mean, a lot of people will travel for work. It's very normal for like people's like, oh yeah.
You know what? COVID probably fucked that up for so many guys.
Absolutely.
Who they're like, what? I got to see my escort over Zoom now.
Yeah. I want a fucker personality.
Sucks.
Yeah, no, that shit would have fucked a lot of people.
Like a lot of like wives are like, honey, it's so great now because of COVID. You don't have to go on the road anymore. He's like, yeah. It's awesome.
I want to ask you guys, since you guys are Canadian, how do you guys feel about the whole Chanty stuff and the dude who offed himself?
Oh,
Matt Dillon?
Yeah.
So just like in a very small version of it is there was a woman that went trans to man.
Yeah.
And is now a man. And then was fairly active in canceling people and stuff like that.
Stand-up comedian
in Canada.
And then got canceled.
And the got canceled was one of the maybe best like Icarus style cancellations ever. Yeah. Because it was Louis C.K. was back playing Yuck Yucks in Toronto. This comedian, which is a big club, this comedian worked at Yuck Yucks, and then it was like, oh, classic Yuck Yucks, putting a white male abuser like on stage, and then it turns out that
that
was you. You were a white male abuser.
A bunch of women came out.
Lots. And they were like...
bunch of women. So, but he was the crazy. Is like what she did to Matt Dillon before was even crazier because they both did a show together. And I think he was at the Just for Laughs maybe. And he did a set before her.
Or Winnipeg.
Okay, there you go. He did a set before her and then basically told like some kind of trans joke or whatever.
Super down the middle too. It was like, now that trans people are in like the Olympics or something in rowing, like it'll be good to watch.
Yeah.
Like honestly, the most down the middle take.
Right. And then she leaves like a note of sorts being like, you fucking made me cry, you trans, or whatever. And then she wrote it. She took a picture and put it online, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then he like read it as he came off, but he didn't really say anything to her. The thing went kind of viral, and then he pretty much got ostracized for a long time.
Yeah, he like moved to Mexico and stuff during COVID. And he had, I mean, the thing is we all know with Canada, it's like, even if you're doing well, you have so little.
Yeah.
Right. And so he was, doing okay, but it was so easy for them to take everything away from him so fast. And they did.
Yeah.
It's almost like nowadays too. It's one of those things where you look back and like at the time I felt like that was such a big deal. Whereas since that, I've seen that same sort of thing play through 45 times
45
now.
times.
Yeah.
I think in Canada was like a big thing though.
Yeah, there was a
It
lot
was
of
freaking
comics. There were
yeah.
a lot of comics. who
No,
got,
do you know Chanty?
I just met her before.
Yeah, a few times. Like, is it? It's like one of those things where it's as soon as it happens, I'm like very, once someone the world turns on them. After that happens and it's like the kicking while they're down, there is like a point where it switches for me and I start to like feel bad for them.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's someone that did something to me, whatever it is.
Oh, that's kind of you, bro.
No, but
I'll kick the bitch down the stairs. I'll dig a hole to find somewhere deep. Be like, I understand what you're saying, but me
Yeah.
personally,
You know what? I'm
set it on fire. I
think
think
that
Yeah, like I won't like really throw gas on the fire, but I'm not about to feel bad for
Well,
someone who gets what
you guys are acting like it's from being nice, whereas I'm just like a hipster canceler.
You're just-
Like,
I mean, it's like-
no, I'm a hipster. I'm like, you're still hating her? Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm onto a new thing now.
Yeah.
So it can, but yeah, I mean, like, to me, the pause, like whether you like to see someone have, revenge or whatever, like obviously it was justice, but there is a part where the only way that things kind of even out is when, it's just not free to ruin someone's life anymore.
True.
I mean, I think that now if you're going to be out there being like, hey, I'm going to dig through everything everyone's ever done and try to ruin their life, to some degree. Like, do you remember when there was a month where I think it was during COVID, but it would be like someone would get famous from a viral video, and then that someone would be like, "Oh, that person actually."
It was the guy-
said
the guy on
N-word."
the-
and then someone would, and then they looked through that person's thing.
Yeah, they said the N word a couple times. Yeah, it was
And
wild.
it was just like legitimately, I think at one point it was like a 4-person chain. So, I mean, I do think that there should be like some ramifications to like trying to,
Get rid of people.
eviscerate someone's life
Yeah.
and business.
I
or
mean,
whatever.
I will say-
socially, it's just like, I don't think we should look at that as like, it's only positive. So I think that's the good part.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. I was like, there is a point where just, it's like right now everyone can say Bill Cosby is the worst guy or whatever, but if we were right now like, isn't he the worst? And you're just like, yeah, but like I'm not like it's like it's already kind of settled a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been adjudicated. He was found innocent recently. So.
Get my boy Bill out.
He's out. He's
Free
out.
Bill.
But I mean, with Chanty too, like the industry created that. Like they gave
that's
so
another
much
part of it.
power and like invincibility where I can't say like I've never been in a position like that, but I can understand how you might change a bit.
Yeah. I think at that time she just represented what I hated in the comedy.
That's correct.
Because the time period where she was like prominent and doing all this stuff was like the part where like you just saw a bunch of people like this kind of like leftist dogma of like inclusivity and like cis white males are garbage and like you can't talk about oppression. Whatever. Like I was just like I hated that era. You know, because it happened in Montreal with like one of the smaller comedians, Daniel Karen, and like
Yeah,
some
dude,
girl-
I had
some
a
girl-
whole thing over Daniel, that guy.
Yeah.
What happened with him?
I remember I made that video. So the girl who said
Yeah.
that
DJ Mausner.
DJ Mausner, right? So remember I made that video?
Yeah.
So I made this video. This is my first like kind of foray into
everyone
everybody
getting mad at you?
hating me in Canadian comedy. So I made this. I remember DJ Mausner put out this
Blog.
Medium post saying
Yes.
this guy Daniel Karen, who I've spoken with before, seems like a nice guy. I don't know him personally.
He's cool.
Right? So she goes, we used to be in a relationship. One day he came home and I was like laying in bed or whatever, and like I was like he was like wanted to have sex, and I didn't really feel like it. And he's like, "What? Oh, you like, you don't think I'm attractive or whatever?" And then she's like, "So we ended up having sex."
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, right in the heart of the Me Too thing, I realized that he had raped me. And she writes,
Hold the context. They were both overweight people.
yes,
They hadn't had sex, and he was feeling self-conscious, thinking it was about like his looks or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, and then she was like, whatever. Yeah. So she's like, so I realize now that he raped me. And I remember reading this. I go, okay,
Crazy.
this is getting too far. Like this, there's going to be an article about this guy online. You're going to search his name and it's going to be like for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rapist. So I made this video, this like 2-minute video that I just posted on Facebook being like, okay, this is getting out of hand. This is crazy. I don't even know why I did it. I just was so like
Yeah.
offended by how insane everything was getting. And then they all dude, almost every female comedian
Yep.
in Canada
Yep.
unfollowed me on Facebook. Like I go look right now, I go like my whole following list on Facebook is just guys.
Well, they have a group, and then
I had the same
you
thing
put it in the
happen.
group.
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen. I know exactly what you're talking about.
In my defense, I went so hard that I got her to remove his name from that article.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
Because of the
Yeah.
thing, she removed his name.
Yeah, I did that video and like a bunch of people banned me from a bunch of comedy spots
Yeah.
in Montreal. I was like, well, you suck my, I don't care. Like, fuck you guys. This is crazy. I wasn't even friends with him. It wasn't like that's my
never
homie.
met him.
But I was like, this is insane. And I was sitting back and everybody just keeping quiet and like afraid to say nothing. I was like, bro, we all know this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And she just called this dude a rapist in front of everybody, pretty much fucked him over. And she was well connected, much like
Shanty. She was the same
She
thing.
was
She was the
connected
next
with the CBC and all that
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
right? So it was just bizarre to watch unfold culturally what was happening.
Yeah, I
in
totally-
comedy
I watched
all over Canada.
so
I totally
much
agree.
of that. in
Dude,
the
you know how many
Toronto
female
comedy scene.
comics actually? It's so funny because like all these female comics like unfollowed me and then messaged me being like, "Hey, actually, thanks for saying that. Like, I could never."
I remember,
They're
yeah.
like, "I could never say that," and I appreciate someone saying something like, "Obviously, I'll never publicly support you in any way, but I appreciate you doing that." It's like, thanks.
I get it.
I get it, I
Everybody
get
wants
it.
to make their money. They don't want to cause. I get it. But
Yeah.
I saw a lot of.
Yeah, it's not even the. It's like it's the money thing's one thing, but in those scenarios, it's more like they're petrified.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
again, it's
Absolutely,
they
that's
have
true.
so little. They're like they have so little that they've probably worked so hard for in Canada.
But
and
also,
they could
like,
say
if you
one
s-
thing and lose it all.
If you see someone beside you, yeah, like just get dragged like that, it's like you're like, I do not want that. Yeah. And they're
It's it's
they're like,
never
we're unfollowing Danny if you want to be part of this community, and they're
Yeah, of course.
like they can't wait. Yeah.
You know, it's never like the funny or the top comedians that are actually good. It's like the ones that are like either industry plants or the folks who like never get far.
Well,
that do
they're
this
playing a
stuff.
different game. They're not playing
Yeah.
the funny game. They're playing the power game.
It's interesting that I've just seen that consistently. The people who do it is very like I've never seen headliners do some weird stuff like
Yeah.
that or
No.
whatever. It's
But to
always-
me, what changed it, like, and I would say it's like, a little less like that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, what changed it is not necessarily people changing their minds, other than what really changed it is like people building new systems that were better.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're a kid in Toronto right now, you're not like, oh, I want that career. You're watching people like you and being like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was a group of people being like, here, we'll just do it without you guys.
Yeah.
And then now people look at that and they go, oh, I don't have to say all the things you need me to say anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like the freedom came from
mean,
not
it's-
from changing people's
who
opinions.
cares about doing just for laughs? Honestly,
No
who
one
cares?
now.
It's
Who cares?
literally irrelevant.
Who cares about doing CBC? Like most of the shit they produce is unfunny. Like you know how many times they
Terrible.
If
pitch
you
me on stuff?
hear people say
Trash.
that now, you legitimately, like, if they're like, oh, I want to get the Just for Laughs thing, you legitimately feel like you're talking to someone from like the 80s.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. They're playing a different game.
They hit me up. They're like, "You want to do new faces?" I was like, "Why?"
New faces? Is it in an arena?
Yeah, it's gonna be taped.
But that's like how
$250. I'm like, why would I put my name on this thing where I know I could sell out like easily this whole room by myself, and then why would I give that money to you? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like this is like an exploitative deal by every standard. Like, I don't need you guys. On the French side, I just realized they paid me like 5 digits, right, to do my show, and these guys are trying to offer me like $250 to do like a 10-minute set and put my name on. Like, no, like this is so stupid. This doesn't make any sense. So,
But they have no idea. They're still living in the previous
know.
era where they go like,
No.
"We're a big deal, right? We're just for laughs."
no, CBC is the same too. Like all their originals, like a lot of them is just garbage. And it's not even like sometimes the talent that's the problem. It's just all the red tape and all the standards that they have to meet. They're like, whoa, listen, we have to avoid this topic and we have to make sure we include some Native Americans. And I'm like, bro, this is so nonsense.
Dude,
Like,
I
just-
used to do videos there, and they would take so long to go through all their notes that by the time the video came out, I felt like it was edited too slow because the internet changed its pacing in the time that like they took to go through the
you
video.
go through the whole thing. It's just it's inefficient. And so I think about
Well,
what
I
you
mean-
spoke about, and it's like that's so true. Like when I go back to Montreal now, it's like so many people run their own shows. People who are not beholden to these things. People run good shows, and there's like a lot of stand up you can do. And it's like I'm so grateful because when I was coming in, if you weren't liked by certain bookers or learn, you know what I mean, you were fucked for a lot of shows.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
And so just seeing the power kind of being redistributed more widely makes it so like people don't have to feel like they're under like some kind of you can't say this, you can't say that. And I think that's awesome, personally.
Yeah, and who's like, especially if you look at the Montreal specifically, you go, who's like the famous guys that you want the career of? It's like what, you, Mike Ward, like,
Yeah.
there's no, I mean, maybe Sugar Sammy, but I don't
Sammy.
think, yeah, he seems like also not like a industry, say
No, he's on his own
seems
thing.
like a
Well,
cool guy.
He
yeah.
did the France Got Talent show. So that was a big like industry move for him. But he did it through his own means. He used to record his things, upload it himself through YouTube, much like Russell Peters and like his own tapes. And like, you know, he fucked off and made like so much money doing stuff overseas. So it's great. The more people recognize like they can do it on their own, the more that we're gonna have better, not only better paid comics, but I think also like just better comedians in general.
Better comedians, and also a better, like just like a better system for getting better too, where it's you can actually there's just so much like bullshit that didn't help you be good at comedian, and a lot of times it helps you be the opposite.
Yeah.
Like so much of that like industry game is literally farming you to be average.
Yeah.
Oh, especially in Canada.
Yeah.
They're like just rewarding some of the most mediocre people consistently, but that's the system.
The mainstream. Nobody cares anymore because like Americans will just come into town and then just sell out a bunch of shows and then leave.
Yeah,
because like that's who they want to see. Like they don't want to see some fucking nobody Chanty come up in Vancouver. They want to see Bill Burr come through. They want to see people who say whatever they want. That's what Canadians really crave. So at the end of the day, when I see this, I like is a disconnect from them and the people, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm happy. I see like a bunch of guys from Toronto making their own content and then traveling and going on tour, and like they're selling out spots from either TikTok or whatever the fuck it might be.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like seeing
it's
stuff
amazing.
like
Yeah, and that like literally when we moved here, like that wasn't happening.
I'm going to take a quick second here to tell you the Fellas tour will be in Phoenix this weekend coming up, and then Plano, Toronto, Buffalo, and Boston. And we got another full episode with just me and Danny going through one of the funniest articles ever at patreon.com/theboyscast, where we are very close to having the Bugman versus
Bugman versus Bugman
at 2,000 patrons.
So sign up and follow my YouTube channel
And follow youtube.com/Daniel Polishuk.
underscore.
It's Daniel Polishuk, right?
No, it's Danny.
Danny.
But also they have the handle, so it's just Danny _ Danny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that you might find interesting, like the Corner Comedy Club.
Yes.
Did you ever come through Toronto and do that?
I think I might have done it once.
I think you
Well,
did,
It's a very small room, right?
yeah, exactly. Tiny room. I
Well,
think
this
that's right.
was like a comedy club that was the kind of the one that no one was in the industry, and everyone said what they wanted to say, and people were doing wild comedy, and girls were boycotting it, whatever, right? All this stuff, and every person that is currently popular from Toronto right now, and
From that show?
there's 4 of them. Everyone's from that comedy club.
Yeah.
Like Shade Arena. And
I saw
Nima.
stuff on TikTok. I'm like, good
these
for
guys are
him,
doing
bro.
really well. But all those guys are from that one spot, And it was like, because like you were wasting your time writing 80 pilots for nothing.
Oh my god,
or whatever the fuck,
that's awesome. I like seeing that. I remember when we first started and we preached, like a lot of people were like, what are you guys doing? This is a waste of time. I'm like, I don't think so. I think this is going to go somewhere eventually. And like, sure enough,
He said it's a waste of time, or you did?
comedians, a lot of comedians were saying like,
They
they
God.
understand it. This is like
Dude, too bad you
2015.
Yeah.
Right. So at the
Hopefully you have
time
some
it
of those
wasn't.
as posts, like, or text messages where it's like this YouTube stuff. Like that's
man.
that's the new guidance counselor like message.
They were hating so hard, and I think I understand part of it. It's like, this is not that funny, and I can understand, like, maybe you guys don't find it funny. That's fine. I don't think like our stuff is hitched on necessarily just being funny. It's just interesting commentary, and then sometimes people laugh at some of the jokes, and that's cool. Like, I'm not someone here like I'm the top comic or whatever. But I just thought it was a great way for me to put out my thoughts and my ideas to the public, and then let them decide if they want to follow it or not. But comedians just wanted to, like, they were very restrictive in how they weren't. I didn't see too many comedians who had like an entrepreneurial mindset. They understood like the artistic aspect of it to some degree, but business was like non-existent. And I think generally the comedians who make it the biggest in terms of like actual making money are the ones who understand the business portion of it. And if you don't,
And that's everything
you're gonna get
else as
fleeced.
well.
You're gonna get fleeced.
Yeah.
You're gonna sign a stupid deal with Just for Laughs to do like your tour, and they're gonna take so much money and offer you zero promotional value. Like you'll just take on bad deals for content and stuff and sign the CBC. So you gotta have your business hat on, especially.
Yeah.
in this
I think people are inherently a little lazy too.
True.
They're just like, I mean, that is kind of the dream where everybody in comedy were like, remember back in the 90s where you go do Just for Laughs, you do a 5-minute set and you get some like $1 million deal from NBC. You don't even make anything. They're like, they just give you $1 million and everybody's like, yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah. Isn't it funny when you see your friends like started out? I'm only like 8-9 years in, but when I first started, like seeing some of them, and like now they're doing like a late night spot on like Conan or something, and it's just like, does this even matter?
No, it doesn't.
But it's not.
It's,
you
I'm
actually
happy
know
for
for
them
a
because I
fact
want
that
them.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No. It's like observably, like it doesn't.
What you mean? Tell me.
Well, I mean,
Just doesn't do
I
anything
mean,
for
do you
you.
not know lots of people that have done all that stuff and it didn't help that much.
True. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So it's like from it's empirically doesn't really help that much.
Well, just a late night credit used to have value because not that many people had late night credits.
Yeah.
Now everybody has them. So like it used to be like, hey, I have a late night credit. Can I headline your club? And they're like, well, everybody who messages me has a late night credit. So there has to be more to it now. Like even, I mean, I remember, I'm not going to say the name, but this comedian who I met in Montreal, actually, he's an American comic, and he was really a victim of timing, in my opinion, because he's a funny comic, and he had done absolutely everything.
Yeah.
He had done every late night show, like not America's Got Talent. What was the Last Comic Standing? He did everything, and then it kind of stopped people caring about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it switched over to the internet,
Yeah.
and he just didn't adapt, and he's just like, that's it.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, like nobody cares.
A lot of guys don't want to either. They refuse to do the internet stuff, which I'm like, it's fine, but the consequence is you have no way to stay connected or tethered to your audience.
Yeah.
That's all that happens. So you got to understand what comes with that. Because the difference is, even if they don't find me as funny or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter because they have an emotional attachment. They want to see me in person. They want the whole spectacle of being there live. You know, some people go to these comedy shows, they don't even laugh. Be it like, there's plenty of comedians they'll go to watch, they don't laugh, but they just want to be able to see them because they listen to the podcast every month. Of
course.
So for them, it's like a whole experience.
I've been that person. I mean, I remember like when the Jackass guys or Tom Green or whatever when I was like young, and those would tour. And yeah, they could have went and done the crappiest thing, and I would have thought it was sick.
I mean, even seeing Tom Green now, like I remember we moved to New York and just hang out with Tom Green at the stand, and I was like, this is maybe the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's still sick.
Great experience.
No. So people, it is if you listen to someone every day, you're like sick. Yeah.
The
So I was like that.
the sponsorship stuff is a big game changer too. Like it's just so interesting how many direct, like how much the middleman's being cut out so often.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right?
All the I mean, this is just with comedy. Like again, all the people who are like, I'm a talent, I'm a talent agent, or I'm a booker, and you're like, yeah, we don't need you. There's this decentralized system, and it now decides as a giant.
Well, even think if you're like a
hive mind,
roofer right now, the amount of money you probably put to put your logo on like the side of buildings and cars, and whatever the hell you had to do. Maybe you have some guy that like helps you get gigs and takes a percentage. It's like. Now there's some roofer in some small town that has 10,000 followers and he's booked for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That shit's crazy to think about. It's almost super rewarding because you realize how much fluff there was involved. It wasn't necessary. Usually you have this guy take 25%, this person takes 15%, and like once you do the back end work, you're like, wait, that's why I was giving you like a couple of grand.
Yeah.
So you could just fire off some emails and just like finish an algorithm. Like there's nothing.
Well, they just had this kind of moat in their little job where they go like, I do this thing and you can't.
Yeah, and they're not
But it's
even
not
necessarily
that
good at
valuable.
it either.
Yeah,
they've had the position forever, so
Exactly.
they've gotten complacent, and they used to get everything. I remember when I negotiated my deal for Just for Laughs. Like some guys like, I can negotiate for you. I could probably get you this much, and I was like, no. And I just went to them with like the most ridiculous number I could think of, and they said yes. And I was like, I remember I had to keep my cool. Okay, this is like the first time me and Preach made money. I never forget this. We were both sitting there, and they accepted the amount. Actually, no, they didn't accept the amount. They went like 15% lower, but that's like still 10 times higher than anything I'd ever touched.
yeah.
And the moment that happened, Preach was like almost reacting that I hit him underneath the table. And then I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely think about it. Like, perfect. And we took the paperwork. We took the contract. We waited till we got the elevator. Like, and it was such a great moment. I mean, I took the check. I plastered it in my room. But it was just, for me, it was like the fruits of my labor finally like came through together. And there's people who recognize their commercial value and like, we can make money from this. This is good for our brand. So we're going to put money. And like, they understand to some degree. And so, yeah, just being able to cut out the middleman, not having fuck it up for me. And then also like seeing how the back end works and how these deals get made. It's like, oh, okay. And so that's another part that's really rewarding for me as well. Yeah.
No, I agree with that sort of stuff. And it is like, the problem is, I guess, with the content is figuring out the balance of all those things, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you find that not even just on you personal level, but just like the way that things are monetized? Like, okay, Netflix is a subscription service, so that really, the better the thing, the better, right?
Yeah.
But when everyone's straight up running like a content business to sell, essentially eyeballs on a product or whatever it is, when that's essentially your model, eventually that's gonna funnel to the easiest content that gets the most views the quickest, right?
Sure.
So it's like there is I wonder in the next like 5 years it'll be a lot worse than it is now, and everyone will start being like, "Hey, I'm done with."
What's the best content is rarely the most profitable. And that
Yes.
could be true for you yourself. Like, there's a bunch of stuff we could do that'd be more profitable. But I'm like, I don't want to make that much money that badly.
But it's
so
just-
I always
you're
find
not
the-
like your objective's not maximizing
No,
profit.
I'm not running live streams like, all right, guys, gambling. You know, like I could, it would be super profitable, but I just can't be bothered. So you always got to find the line of stuff that you don't want to do, that doesn't interest you. So everything I do is in the vein of things I want to do. And then the advertisers just come in on the side afterwards. And that's like, I don't love this advertiser, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I know, you can
if it's
fit
an
it
advertiser
in.
I hate, I'll be like, no, I'll refuse it. Because there's how much money do you really need?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, is it worth it? And then that's always
Well,
always
dude,
myself.
I a lot of times like I'll do a few like a month or whatever, but a lot of times I'm like, I just don't really want this in my video.
Yeah.
It's like, especially with like a sketch or something, sometimes I'm just like, I think I just would rather it, like even, and it is annoying to be like, hey, X amount of dollars if it like changes nothing except for have it there, and I'm just like, I don't want to.
Yeah. Halfway through the video, it's like it kills the whole flow.
Some shit like that,
You got to
yeah.
find the balance. I think in a podcast setting, it's fine. You know, like
Podcast
an
is
ad-
it's totally fine.
But like if I'm doing a short sketch, I wouldn't do it because like it just kills the whole sketch.
I put them at the end,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's the thing. And does it pay less? Probably, but I think at the end of the day, it's like you got to think about your audience because the audience is what gets you the money. So you don't want to lose the audience just to make the money, right? So
yeah,
That's amazing.
No, but there is a switch though. I've even noticed on watching like TikTok and Instagram and places like that, where in the last year. First of all, there's a million people whose content is about content.
yeah,
Like there's a genre of content about content.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a machine.
Yeah, it's a
like
machine.
perpetual motion machine.
It's the new Wild West.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, this is the gold rush.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's so much money people can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it. It is a bit of a gold rush. So people are and those are the people that are figuring out, hey, what if I make a machine that digs the gold?
Yeah, there's people on the back end who do that. Like think about influencer
And there's people-
marketing companies. There's people who literally hire a bunch of influencers or whatever they're called, like YouTubers, and they put them underneath their label and they just take checks and they understand like, all right, this is the brand. Like, so people understand, and these new industries are popping up as a result of
Oh,
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then there's you're going to have the person that's like, if you mine it properly, you do it like this. This is how you.
There's always going to be people who think they have the formula and they've figured everything out.
And there is the
No,
thing
I'm
where-
saying the old guy that's still mining the old.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, he goes. You work on your tight five. That's what you do. Just get that tight five.
yeah, he
good
doesn't
old
like
days.
all the back in his day they didn't use machines to dig for gold.
yeah.
But it is.
These are like the guys who like they do their like Just for Laughs gala. It's like airs on CBC, and then they like open up Twitter, and they're like, nothing, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well.
No, so I think it's obviously like way better and it's made my life better, but there's also a part of me that like sort of like in some ways bums me out. But it's probably all temporary. Things get like if they do get bad enough, then a new thing happens always, right?
VR comedy shows. I think that's going to be a thing.
You think so?
I think so. I think once
VR comedy shows.
VR
yeah.
comedy
I
shows.
actually agree with
Imagine
it. I've
you
been
could
saying
be
that
anywhere
before.
in the world and you're watching Dave Chappelle in person. Like if it's sensory like
Yeah.
overload, I'd pay
sure.
I'd pay to do it too.
I mean, the thing
Yeah.
is most people don't have a comedy club. Even in Canada, like
No.
Canada has less comedy clubs than there are within 2 miles of us right now.
Yeah.
In the entire country.
Absolutely.
Like most people do not have a local comedy club, like all over the world. So yeah, if you can dial them in and you just pop on your VR and you're like, hey, I'm at a show.
Absolutely. That's going to be the new rush.
Yeah.
Like live shows are going to be a thing.
You
but
think
live-
VR?
Imagine if Dua Lipa
You think
could have-
Meta's going to work the way that?
Imagine if Dua Lipa could run a concert with all her fans at the same time, and imagine they could find a way to like insulate the sound and the whole vibe of
Oh,
it. And you feel it. I would want to do that.
For
I would
sure.
want to pay attention. I'd want to run a show instead of me having to travel to Berlin and travel here. I'm like, yo, listen, for all my European fans, we're gonna have a show at this time. Get tuned in, bruv. That sounds wicked. But if the technology gets
Yeah. We're still a bit away from it being that close, but it'll.
It's pretty amazing
I mean,
already.
I have an Oculus, and you use it, and you go like, I could see how we'll get there.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
For sure.
So you think that Meta is the?
I don't know if
gonna-
Meta, the iteration of Meta as we have it now is, but I think that industry is. It's kind of like when electric cars came out, like a couple, everyone's like, no, and now you're seeing it. It's progressively becoming more and more common. Where I think it's going to be the future entirely.
Yeah. I mean, it has
What's
to
the
have
closest?
full
What's the
latency,
closest
like-
that's happening right now where it's like sort of close to being a consumer thing that people actually do? Is that live shows?
on Oculus?
Sure.
That's close to being. I think business stuff. That's where they're. I know Meta is. That's where they're trying to focus their
Meetings.
Things is being like, hey, instead of having to travel to a meeting, here, just plop on your thing,
Yeah.
and you're in a meeting, and like you can just pop stuff up and everybody can participate. Because I mean, there still is the motion element that's not good on
the
Oculus.
the VR thing. I know guys who do the VR comedy shows already. It's a bit rusty at the moment, but it's still interesting. And people do virtual reality hangouts, so they have their avatars and they go to just show up on the spot. It's like instead of getting dressed up, you just go in as whatever the fuck you want. You
Yeah,
just
we're
sit
gonna be
down.
so fucking lazy in 10 years.
Yo, it's gonna be
The
wild.
Matrix.
This is the future, man.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to go on the Horizon Worlds thing recently, and I was like, I still don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm like, it's just all you hear is a bunch of 8-year-olds all talking at the same time, and I go like, I don't know why this is good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something.
I dated a girl once that would do these club events where you essentially like the bar would pay her $5,000 and she would literally just go kind of like stand in a booth and then say hi to a few people and then drink and then leave or whatever. That's going to be the laziest job of all time, is the influencer that get paid like 30 grand to be
show
in
up
a
in
virtual.
VR?
You had to just put this on, like drink like one drink and then you take your headset back off and you just paid 30 grand.
Yeah, I mean, didn't somebody buy property besides Snoop Dogg? In
Yeah,
VR?
that was in Decentraland. Although I don't know if people are still into that anymore.
That's it. But somebody's like, I think this is the next thing, and then there's people who are gonna take chances.
But there will be a comedy club where it'll be a ticketed thing where you
Yeah.
go, hey, pay $5 and you can grab a seat. And
Imagine VR sex for long distance relationships, because they already have technology now where you put on a glove, and like they have like doctors in America doing operations on people in India, because the glove the doctor wears in America,
Yeah.
and it does the exact same movements.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah. Like,
Oh, they'll have the full haptic, and they'll have the full like haptic.
you know what'd be hilarious
bodysuits
though?
and- for sure.
You find out your girl's been using a dick bigger than yours.
Just edits that thing, right?
Yeah,
Like that.
It's like slightly bigger.
I think
yeah,
even
yeah.
editing is going to be normalized, because I see like plastic surgery now on ladies is like super normal. You know what I mean? Be it like Botox, lip fillers,
Super
nose
normal, yeah.
jobs, ass, tits. Like, who cares about a tip job? I don't think people even make a comment about titty jobs now. And so I think within the next 20 years, with plastic surgery becoming more efficient and everything's going quick, everyone I know is like getting hair transplants if they're bald. Nobody cares.
No.
So the whole editing thing is going to be normal. It's like that cyberpunk future.
Editing what? Like you're saying editing
Yourself, your partner,
your
like,
VR thing, yeah.
absolutely. This is the new normal.
Just living like a crazy new lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess ever seen Cyberpunk?
No,
No, what's that?
Cyberpunk 27? No.
I've heard of it. I thought it was a video game.
It's a video game. It's also like an anime. It's like a whole genre, but it's basically talking about like the future and how like everyone's like half cyberonics, like half human. And so like they're getting their arms edited, their legs edited to like jump higher, and it's interesting. But
Wait, so when you say edited, they edit the genes, or do you mean?
they like they'll just take out like, you know how you edit, like you'll just take out a piece and put something else. That's what I mean when I say edit.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen they can make you taller now? The
That
leg
surgery
thing?
is getting better.
You know what's crazy too? I was reading this article about this guy who was, I think he was 5'7", and it's so expensive and it's so painful. They literally break your legs, and then over the course of like, it takes 3 months, they basically put in bone and then it fuses. So you have these long legs.
I know. Yeah, you basically go to the mafia,
It's-
owe them
it's-
money, then they come break your legs. then you save the money that
Save
you
the
would owe
money.
them.
I mean,
That's how
it's
you double
basically
your dollar.
it's almost like the South Park thing, but the guy was talking about it, and they're like, "Why would you do that? Like, you were already 5'7". He's like, "I don't know. It just seems like being 5'10" sounds pretty sick."
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I get it.
But you'd have a high waist, dude.
Well, that's the problem. Is because it's not proportional. It's just
You probably
it's like
look
your
a little
femur.
strange.
It's like that bird joke where he talks about like, why would you be one of the first people to get the job? You know, like let other
First
people.
people's tough.
Yeah, because they're just experimenting at that point. So you wait for it to get a little bit better. Like nose jobs were wild before, and now they've gotten so good at it.
Lips are okay.
Yeah.
The people that are getting the butt jobs are still a little strange looking at times.
Sometimes, yeah, but they're getting better at that one too. And like that one's super common.
Yeah.
Super common. Like you be stuff, and you know what's interesting about that one? That one's just a fat transfer. So it's actually superior to the titty job because like that's a silicone implant, but they're just literally taking flat. Like it actually doubles up as
But
a
it can look a
liposuction.
little weird, yeah.
That's the bad ones. You'd be surprised how many.
Those are the Colombia ones. You know, you go to some
Yeah.
other country and get it under the table.
You'd be surprised how many people on Instagram you probably looked at that have had it done that you didn't notice.
Yeah.
Because what happens is they take out stuff out of their midsection, so like they get slimmer here,
Yeah.
and then they easily implant it there on the ass.
Yeah.
and
See,
you
I
can't-
noticed you see like some girls who have those, and you're like, your body looks like
crazy.
a funhouse mirror. Like it looks insane. Like nobody's body looks like that. It looks crazy. And like I always think, I'm like, do they think that they look normal? Like, do they think they're just like, I'm like a maximized like normal looking
Do you
body? Or
do you not
everybody
think your
knows?
brain got changed though? Because mine did. Like in terms of that look, like the big lips or whatever. Like I never was attracted to
I hate
that,
it.
and I currently am.
Oh, I hate
Yeah, yeah,
it.
you're liking to it a little bit.
I fucking hate
It
it.
switched me.
And I'm telling you, you're like all those girls with those fake asses. Like, look at their Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Like, there's dudes everywhere. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I mean the same way. Have you ever I'm sure everyone here is like never really been that specifically attracted to a certain type of girl. Then you date that girl,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that sort of changes your
I used to feel that way about blonde
pathways
women
or whatever.
Yeah.
Blonde women.
I do date that girl, and I don't like it.
Right. Yeah, yours is more a little like that. But no, I don't know that sort of. Like that just wasn't in my wheelhouse of girls that I thought about.
Yeah.
And definitely, I remember I've sort of talked about this a bit on stage, but like when the Kardashians first came out, I was like also like weird look, like, you know what I mean? And I've literally switched where it's now I'm just like, look at the girl doesn't even have lips. Like, small ass lips on this girl.
Thin ass lips on it.
Hating hard, man.
Yeah.
No, beauty standards are changing.
But it does switch. Yeah, your brain can switch. There's certain things I don't think I could be switched on, but those specific things, like, I don't know. I'm sure there's certain people that like, you know, that didn't like a tattooed guy. Now it's like they like the girls that kind of are
normal. If your dude doesn't
See a
have
guy-
one tattoo, like it's kind of
Yeah, but no, I'm saying now there's like a certain type of girl that's like, oh, it's a look that they like that his face has tattoos on it.
Yeah.
Like that's a brain pathway that has to change because no one's out of the womb being like, yeah, I would like someone's face.
I actually,
to
you
be
know
all
what? I got
marked
into
up.
a rabbit hole last night. I was watching YouTube, and this dude, I can't remember his name, Lil like Pooney or something, or Noopy. or
Wait, poopsies?
No. This guy, not Poopsies. They were talking about him on. It was on No Jumper or whatever, and he's like this white dude from Syracuse who's like totally covered in face tats, and he's like.
Okay.
Says he's like he's like a blood or
Okay.
whatever, but it's total lie.
Yeah.
And he got called out by that.
Oh, the Bloods keep saying, no, he's not.
no, that guy 1090 or whatever.
what, Tekashi 6ix9ine?
No, not Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Okay,
No.
somebody else?
No,
Okay.
this guy's like, I went and looked at his Instagram yesterday, and he has like 70.
This is
No.
we're way too old for this. When it's
I know,
like
way too
three
old
guys
for
being
this.
like, this new rapper, Poopsie.
No,
young,
it's like
young,
Lil.
young Poopsie
I want to
squad?
say it's like Lil Noopy or something.
It doesn't matter. There's always a new
That's
little.
such a
Whatever,
dad-
but
that's
you're
such a
like,
dad,
The guy
though.
went so hardcore because he wanted this life of like being this tattoo
Absolutely.
guy, and you're like, he stinks.
Think about that,
and also like nobody likes him, and then he's been called out as like being a fraud in
Yeah.
all the crews
And
that
now
like,
you can't get a
matter. So like,
Think about it though. You're willing to tattoo your entire face. I promise you, in 15 years, people are gonna get robotic arms.
yeah,
There's
Right.
no reason not to. There's no reason not
for
to.
sure.
You'll get robotic eyes. You could see like you could fucking zoom in and change your focus. Like who's not going to do it?
I feel like I always think America is the most like extreme always too. You know
yeah.
what I mean? But it's like, yeah, all it'll take for some guy to get the robotic arm, and then it'd be a week before someone's like, I'll get 2 robotic arms. And it's like, and then the third guy's like, yeah, pop one on my neck. Let's fuck it. I got.
I mean,
arm
I'll
on my
legit-
neck now.
they-
Now you're Octavius.
they've talked about what is it like? I think Apple is designing it like a contact lens.
Second dick.
A second dick. Oh, definitely the second dick.
A dick on the front and the back.
Now there's one underneath, right? You just fuck both holes at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time.
yeah,
That shit's crazy. Like, and like they're pulsating. There's like a fucking propeller and a pump just. Blah, blah, blah.
There's just hydraulics. and
Yeah,
shit.
who needs a sex toy? Like I got it built in. That
Sure.
shit's crazy.
Yeah, you'll do
I mean,
Yo, dick slapping with your dick and your robotic dick.
yeah.
But that contact lens, I would do that for sure.
Yeah.
If it's just a contact lens,
And what would be the things of that?
just like a full computer that's like overlaid on your reality, essentially. Like, I don't know. Seems pretty cool.
You're saying
It's like Terminator,
You'd
yeah.
prefer that than the Elon Musk microchip.
Well, microchip seems more invasive. If we're talking about literally a contact lens, and you're like, well, lots of people wear contact lenses, so
Yeah. Think about our parents' generation, well, or maybe before them, like World War II, and like they came right afterwards, and then us is the advent of the internet, and like our kids probably getting like advent of like cybernetics and shit.
And
that's
it
that's such a
moves
wild
more
transition. How
extreme, yeah.
exponential it'll be
oh, for sure.
when it comes to technology.
Oh, yeah.
That's a crazy thing to think about.
Oh yeah. Like, it seems like
Bald guys are done. There'll never be another bald guy
No,
again.
there's no
Yeah.
reason to. Or even like sports. Like I'm gonna watch human sports and then like half robot sports.
Yeah.
You know, like who doesn't want to see a super freak running around like kicking balls from halfway across with such precision? Like, there's gonna be freak shows of every
And there's
kind.
gonna be like some argument of like, hey, but that's a trans robot.
yeah.
Dude, we have trans.
There's gonna be no ethics.
Are
when
they
it
allowed
comes
to
that
play
shit.
in this league?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what.
I don't
that
think
comes
you'd
out.
ever want to watch robot sports. That just seems like
Not full robots,
Not
half
full
robots.
robot, yeah. As
I
long
would
as
want to see
there's some
half
sort of
man,
human
half robots.
component.
Absolutely, I'd rather
Yeah,
watch that.
as long as there's some human like piloting or whatever, something like that.
Would you want to see half robots fight each other?
If there's a human underneath the robot, I would expect. I would like
Yeah.
it.
You just
yeah,
fucking
probably.
see steam popping out his shoulder when he goes for a right
Yeah.
hook. Like that should be I don't know. To me, like,
Or like,
I think that future sounds pretty exciting.
something like almost like a Power Rangers thing where like you have the guy inside, you know, and then they're manning these 50-foot tall robots that are like fighting each other.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
The whole natural thing is that's out the window. That's out the window. There's going to be always a movement of
You
people.
think it's done? Yeah,
I think it's over. I think it's over. I think they've lost that battle, and I think plastic surgery is
They didn't
definitely-
solve all the things. I mean, they, like guys used to be able to not get it up. Like that's done.
That's done.
Yeah.
You know
Just
what I
got
mean?
pills you can take or fucking medicine, TRT, whatever you need, and you fix everything. And nobody even stigmatizes you for using it.
Not at all.
That's how you know the culture's changed. Because I remember growing up, it was like everybody wanted to get big boobs, so you got titty jobs, and everyone's like, ew. Now nobody thinks about that, and the ass is the next thing.
Yeah, you're almost better off to have small tits and get big ones put on than to have like big tits that are just a little worse than fakes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cultural shift. It's interesting. I'm very like I feel like I won't reckon like when I'm going to be the old geezer. I'm really gonna look at the world and be like, whoa, it's so different than when I was growing up. You know how our parents did
Yeah,
that?
you're not that now though. You're
Not that
tapped in.
yet. Not that yet. Because I feel like I was there when the internet like really popped off.
Yeah, and you run
and I was
an
there
internet
just
business.
before as well, just like doing the whole park stuff and hanging out with people before. But I don't feel like there's been that much change. But I think once the cyber stuff comes in, I think it's over.
Well, one of the things with the AI, I feel like the same as the AI conversation that there's a lot of people have been saying like that's the only thing in the future.
Yeah.
I feel like the people have the same conversation about like streaming for a long time. Like even when like Access came out, it was like a lot of people betting on like live is the only thing that matters moving forward. Yeah. And I know that you kind of live stream and do your shows. Like, do you think that that is true? That people are, it's going to be almost exclusively like move towards live and everything?
I think there's going to be a market for both because I think the experience of being there in person is like just special to people. But I think with time, as the VR technology gets superior, like the one thing that would make me go to a VR show over a real show is that the VR thing can edit things to make it better.
Yeah,
right?
there's like an
So,
overlay or something.
Exactly.
But people will always want to leave their houses. I think the VR thing is still just really good for people who just don't have access to it. You're like,
Yeah.
you can't put a comedy club out in every city.
But imagine if it's like mushrooms.
Yeah.
Then you're staying home to watch the show. You get what I'm trying to say? Like would you want to go see the or it's you do it on mushrooms? The show's even fucking better. You can do it from home. It's like people are going to want to do that. They want to see the whole spectacle of lights and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like you think about your imagination. I think about VR making everything in your imagination about a live show happen in real life.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So like, let's say you're talking about a story and there's visuals of like whatever that story is popping out in everyone's like eyes at the same time you're telling that story. It can make it a lot better.
They had a thing actually, I think last week, where they had some like neural net thing, and they were showing images of people's thoughts, and they were like pretty close. Like they would show them, they would show them a photo, and then be like, think about the picture of the photo, and then the reproduction, and it was like pretty close.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that your girlfriend's like, yeah, you bring your chick and you go, hey, I got us this thing. And she's like, shoot yourself on the spot.
Yeah, no thanks.
I guess that's when there is a point where the only the only separation from the real world and the not real world is that you've decided that you're in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as I guess that was what they always Matrix stuff, but it's like as soon as you just like let go of the fact that the separation, then there's like ceases to be one.
It's hard to though, because if you ever took it on the Oculus, even when you know it's not real, you still react like it's real.
Of course.
When I'm standing on the ledge of the building, like you, bro, like that shit is the truth.
For sure.
I was terrified of really falling. So you have no way of not knowing it's real. It's like you could watch the Avengers or you could be in it as like one of the cameramen who walks through the whole thing and they talk to you. Like the experience of being there with Captain America or Iron Man is probably way superior than watching it on a screen.
I guess there is like things that do act. Look, if you think about what's real, like if you have on the internet, let's say we had like a big club and I'm the president and you're the thing. It's like, and you're like, you're not actually the president. It's just on the internet. And you're like, well, but I am the president on the internet. Like, it's kind of, I guess it gets murky what is real and what's not too, you know? So if you're like, hey, I own this big house and this thing. And you're like, yeah, but it's not real. And you're like, well, it is though, I guess.
It is because I play like video games and like you'll have people who have like guild houses in certain video games and like that means everything to them. They show up with their buddies at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Really?
Yeah, and they decorate the spot. They invest real money into like getting cool stuff and emblems, and everybody shows up to play online.
Sick.
Now imagine that's first person. You're literally in there. You get to open the
You
doors.
and your squad have
You and
this
your squad.
mansion.
You don't even need to
Just-
know them in person. Like you make friendships that are so tight just from those kind of experiences.
I mean, I've like how many times have me and you met? And I've seen tons of your stuff, and I feel like I know you in a lot of ways because of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, since I moved to America, the amount of friends I met from the internet, and obviously that's a little different because it's business. It's like a business relationship to some degree, but still, it is real.
Yeah.
Like it starts that way, but then it's not.
Yeah. It's just. I think about that game. The one.
Yeah, what's the difference between like you were in a rock climbing club together, or a cyclist club together, or went to school together, then you play video games together? Like, really, what's the difference?
It is different because I think the in-person stuff makes it a little bit more tangible and stronger. However,
well, they can have both though. You like how many people that play video games with people and then they meet up? Like,
right. But I'm thinking if you regularly meet up online versus regularly meeting up in person, I feel like those things are going to feel
changes
different.
it once you meet.
Yeah. But I think about that game where I was talking about where you're on the ledge of the building and there's like birds flying around, you're terrified.
Yeah, I've done it. I think
it's a trippy thing, right?
It's like really like you look at it, you're like,
oh yeah, your heart's in your
wobbly.
and I'm like, it got that emotional aspect of me that felt so real. And so I'm thinking, take every
You
experience.
felt like scared?
Oh, terrified.
big time.
Like there's a video online of rappers doing it. You saw the one?
No, I've never seen
There's
that.
a hilarious. You got a bunch of like these like SoundCloud rappers to do this shit. It's hilarious. They're saying like, "Oh, nigga," there's a scream, right? But I think of like how emotionally it gripped me, and I think everything that I watch on the screen, if I could get that same emotional grip watching that, it would make everything 10 times better, or at least more immersive, and I'd be more invested. That memory stays with me forever because I'm like, whoo. So when I think about like Game of Thrones or whatever, like imagine the experience of like being there. Like it feels like you're seeing everything unfold around you. You're not just watching the red wedding. You're there for it.
Yeah, you're there. You're
You're in the corner seeing the carnage happen. You hear the screaming in your ears and blood spatters on your face. Like it's almost conceptually so crazy to think about.
It's gonna screw up the girls who are super into like all the true crime and stuff like that. Like you come home and the girl's just been watching 8 hours of being at a murder scene.
And you know there's gonna be some twisted people who are like, they're going to do the most fucked up shit in VR.
You know what would really be like a game changer is, so I actually was reading this study that was pretty normal stuff, but it was listing off what makes people sleep better and a lot of things like that. And one of the ones obviously was like sunlight. And there's another point I'm bringing this up, but the reason I was saying that is, imagine you could put the VR on and you were, and a lot of people don't get enough sun if you live in the wrong spot. So you go into a place, you get sun, but it's able to actually simulate real sun, like you get the vitamin D too. Where imagine like how many times you've probably been like in like maybe a bad mood or whatever, and you go out and it's sunny and it kind of
feel
like
better.
I think they have lamps like that.
Yeah, so if you have like the lamp, so basically you have the glasses on, then there's like a lamp on top of that attached to your head, like you basically have a hat that kind of has like a lamp shining down, and then maybe it activates the lamp or something like that.
Ryan's girl's gonna come home. He's just like looks like a lamp. Got a lamp shade on his head.
Yo, that would be pretty cool if you literally could simulate like being at the beach, but it wasn't fake because you still need the vitamin D and the actual sun benefits.
Yes.
So
they got technology to replicate that. They're going to have everything.
They're gonna have
everything. Think about how many people got fantasies.
I want the first lamp.
They can't even
man.
talk about. You know what I mean? Like I know girls who probably I know a lot of girls who have rape fantasies. They can just pop it in VR and make it happen.
And then they turn off. They go, I didn't like it actually.
Yeah. But at least they didn't get it really real, but it felt real. You know.
I think
you get self-traumatized that way.
I think I was wrong about liking that.
Yeah. That's going to be really.
Well,
wild.
that's probably the safest way to find out that you're wrong, though. That's probably
Sure. Yeah.
Think about deepfakes too. Deepfakes are crazy.
That's gonna be the crappy.
Yeah, I think it's terrible too. But like people are using deepfakes for porn now. So like, who do you want on the porn? We'll switch your head on to any video you want.
Yeah, your sister.
Yeah, that's wild, man. There's a lot of illegal stuff that's gonna happen with VR for sure.
Yeah. That's gonna probably be there's gonna have to be a squad of people that's their job.
Do you ever think they'll be like, remember how people used to film movies, like record movies like on a camcorder, like in the 90s? Like you think there'll ever be something like, probably not that far away, where someone is at like a Knicks game, and you could just like plug into
they already do that
and be like,
they already do that.
Watching the Knicks game.
No, they already do that. They already do it right now.
Really?
Yeah, during the NBA,
people wear the glasses.
They wear the glasses and you're literally there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like on the court? Like
on the court, you're
the
watching.
Ref wears it?
Yeah. It's not the ref. I think you're courtside.
Oh.
They had like a camera set up
bootlegger.
for VR, and like you could just watch as if you were there. People are doing that from home.
Yeah.
I want to watch that.
The one before I forget, one of the funny things was, so for women it said having a partner sleep beside you on the bed improved your sleep by 10%, and for men having a partner in the bed decreased your sleep by 5%.
Yeah, because dude,
isn't that great?
do you have
That's such a funny stat.
Do you do
I
two
believe that.
blankets?
Like I suspected that.
I've never slept better because a woman was beside
Dude,
me.
yeah,
Not
I've
once.
suspected that.
Two
but it's
blankets
facts.
is the answer for you. 2 blankets.
Separate blankets.
Dude, that you have a set. I was saying this to the Are You Garbage guys, where you're like, yeah, that's how I do it. It's like,
Is that what you do?
Yes, you have at that point a separate bed.
You're eventually going to have separate beds for
Oh,
sure.
I heard
though.
2 blankets. Why'd you say 2 blankets?
2 blankets because she has hers and I have mine, and then because
This guy's one step away from Bert and Ernie beds.
No, because the sleeping bad part for guys is because women are hopefully generally smaller, but they're using the same blanket, and you're fighting. That's why you sleep bad.
That's
Because
not-
you're all fighting over this fucking blanket all night.
That's not the reason for me. You know what it
No?
is? I'm always on the edge of the bed. And so she's in the middle, and it creates like a bit of. Oh, sorry, it creates a bit of a dent. Like so, like the literally bed, the weight supports my back feels different.
Oh.
because there's more weight. Like the bed literally feels different than when it was when
'cause-
she's not
right,
there.
right.
That's what actually fucks me up. I actually wake up a lot of times like a woman sleeping beside me, like my back hurts because the way that she changes the shift
the
of
shape of the bed.
because
Yeah.
it
For
doesn't
me,
it doesn't
it's
support me as well.
Always just the blanket.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just we're always fighting.
Well, there's also
over
you
it.
just don't have as much room too. Like I'm
True.
a pretty big guy, so it's like a lot of times when they're the first thing. If you're just like first thing you do at the hotel is like fucking
Open up.
open up. That's how you get to sleep. You know.
Yeah, I don't like sleeping beside people, but if you got
No,
a
but for
girlfriend,
girls, isn't that crazy? 8% or whatever it was, better sleep for girls being next to a guy.
it's fucking
Yeah, because
bullshit.
they probably feel like a little safer and
Yeah.
then for you.
I'll tell you
have
what,
comforted,
less space,
less
and-
lonely.
But back to VR, that's gonna be pedophiles are gonna have a fucking field day. On
Hey
that.
man, I didn't want to go there, but you already know.
Yo, did you
All of a sudden that Balenciaga ad's
Yeah.
gonna make a comeback?
Yo.
That little girl with the fucking teddy bear, disgusting.
you could be there on the set.
Yes, you could be the photographer now.
Oh, man, there's gonna be all these like academics doing papers about like is this fine?
Yep.
All that stuff and like
Yo,
you see that? Do you see that play actually that's happening in New York right now?
No,
The
what?
I actually was like maybe I want to go watch it just to see. There's a play. The Washington Post posted about it, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's about 4 sex offenders who are living together in like I guess I don't know if it's a halfway house or something, and it's just like it's exploring sex of like how what it's like to be a sex offender, and all these people are like all Twitter's just like wood chipper.
It also would be difficult to write that play and then you know just be like I would never, but just it seems like one of those things that like imagine you had a buddy that was just like I just spent the last year like writing play about 5 pedophiles, really, like and they're the protagonists.
well, they're not all pedophiles, but I think like one of them is like it's real. But they're-
Anytime you hear sex offender, you think pedophile.
yeah, for sure. For
Even
sure.
if it's like a rape, it's
But
like
regardless, they're like
pedophile.
it's just a weird dynamic for like a play. It's like an off-Broadway
it just
play.
because they're all sitting in the one room, then the sets come out and blah blah. Blah. It's just like a awkward thing to watch. Yeah.
That's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Anytime you're like, I want to demystify pedophile.
I know.
Don't do it.
But there are a lot of
no,
people.
I
are
want to
trying.
sensibilize so we can bring up. Don't
I
do it.
mean, Washington Post was like, "This is an amazing play."
Of course, the artsy
course.
fartsy people are the
course,
people
right?
left or right will never jump on that.
Tickets on like a Tuesday night for this shit are like $100. I was like, "Who the fuck is paying this?"
For
I
the
think
rich
it's a
people
hot-
who diddle kids.
I think it's a honeypot. Yeah.
Yeah, you just like they're taking. A
You
little
walk
bio-
in the thing and it's like right in the cuffs.
Bro, that shit's so dark, man. That shit's dark as hell.
Dude, thank you for coming through.
man,
It's
dude,
amazing.
It's my pleasure, man. I had a
Yeah.
good time.
Next time you're coming for longer, you should come do spots at Cellar or something like that. Do some shit.
You guys do a lot of spots down there?
Yeah.
On regular?
I mean,
Cool.
they're the Stand, Brooklyn. Like,
Okay.
yeah. You should, did you do it? You didn't do any spots or anything?
I haven't done. No, I just came in last night at like 11. I came in super late, and then
Yeah,
I head
yeah.
back because I have to work right
I know
away.
you don't do a crazy amount of that stuff, but and then you're going back. Okay. ABBA Atlas.
Yes.
ABBA and Preach on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Instagram's probably the main one.
Yeah,
right?
I mean all this stuff. You can just find us. You look up anywhere, you'll find Abba and Preach.
Crushing it. Canadian excellence.
Canadian excellence.
I mean, all 3 of us. Look at us. They don't know that. You know what I mean?
The boys are.
You guys been hiding this shit. You got to let them know.
You'll never.
This guy says a boot. What do you mean?
Do you?
Well, he's French. What's worse?
Pas français, tabarnak.
You gotta talk Canadian. Tabernacle. Please.